Chapter 1280, Busy Guild Quest 3 Fuck. Are they done yet? Although these missions were not big, they came one after another. When would they end? Why was it so difficult to earn their money? The waiter and the others couldn't help but complain in their hearts, but they still had to put on a happy expression. I wonder what other requests you have. The waiter asked with a forced smile. This is a part of what we have to do. After you've done this, I'll give you the rest. Fonda handed over a thick stack of paper. The waiter took it and almost fainted after taking a look at it. The paper was full of tasks, and the stack of paper was an inch thick. Moreover, this was not the end, because the waiter had said that he would assign other tasks after these things were done. Fuck. Did these people treat them as their servants? He had been in the Guild of Missions for many years, but he had never seen such a troublesome client. They really went too far. They didn't show their might. Did they think that the Quest Guild was a pushover? The waiter cursed in his heart. However, he only dared to curse in his heart. He didn't have the guts to offend the client. Moreover, the president attached great importance to the client. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Then Fonda asked the waiter to leave. The waiter and the others had to swallow their anger and leave the inn. After the waiter and the others left, Shuang looked at Fonda and said with a smirk, "You guys are really bad. You actually thought of so many missions for them to do. Hehe. Both of them. Both of them. You're not bad either. It actually caused those people to be covered in injuries." Fonda laughed. "Those are just superficial wounds. They'll be fine after eating a pill. The reason why they came back with injuries was just to show their president. They're all smart people," Shuang said with a look of disdain. "However, you've given them so many missions. Will they complete them honestly? Wouldn't it take a long time to finish all this?" Shuang asked with a puzzled expression. "It's up to them whether they want to do it or not. If they don't do it, they won't be able to get the rest of the crystals. The young Miss bait has already been set, and that President Zeng has no choice but to take the bait. And once they fail to complete our commission, we'll have a reason to rob them." Fonda chuckled. He was in a very good mood. "Yeah, you're right." Snow Shadow nodded. In the next few days, the mission guild was as Fonda had expected. They were busy with the missions he assigned. Although the missions he gave were not very big, there were a lot of them, and they were very complicated. However, for the sake of those top-quality fire attribute crystals, they had to send people to complete those missions. This had also diverted the attention of the mission guild. Therefore, the arrival of the Ascender Alliance's 2 alliance masters did not attract Zeng Yan's attention. In an unremarkable inning city. In the room. Visit MYB0X Novel, com to read please. A beautiful woman who looked to be in her 30s was lazily lying on a deck chair. Beside her were 2 handsome men who were serving her. This man was the leader of the Ascender Alliance. "Mother, when are we going to settle the score with them?" Suddenly, the door was pushed open and a young woman ran in. "What's the hurry? We have to understand the opponent's situation. If we go rashly, what if we suffer a loss?" The woman who was addressed as mother frowned slightly and spoke indifferently. She had said that her only daughter was impetuous before. However, she had said it many times but she was still unrepentant. Now she was too lazy to say it again. "Mother, don't let them go. Some of them are the kind of pretty boys mother likes. When the time comes, we must torture them with all our might to avenge the deaths of our 2 alliances." The young woman said fiercely. "You don't need to say this. Mother knows it in her heart. These few days you'd better stay in the inn and not run around. Do you hear me?" The leader of the Second Alliance warned. "Yes. Yes." The young woman replied obediently. However, she was a little dissatisfied in her heart. Ever since she had escaped back to the Second Alliance, her mother had been much stricter with her, causing her to be unable to run around like she used to. "If there's nothing else, you can go back to your room. I'll send someone to keep an eye on you," the leader of the Second Alliance said. Yes. Although the young woman was very unwilling, she did not dare to disobey her mother's words. After all, her mother was her biggest backer. The young lady then returned to her room, while the alliance master of the Second Alliance sighed as he watched his only daughter's back. "Alliance master, the young miss is still young. When she is older, she will naturally understand." A man beside him advised. I hope so. However, with that personality of hers, it's really easy for her to cause trouble. The alliance master of the second alliance was depressed. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and a man quickly went to open it. Alliance master in back. A middle-aged man walked in from the outside and bowed respectfully. How is it? What did Zheng Yan say? The leader of the second alliance asked. Alliance master, I didn't see President Zheng. Not only that, I didn't see anyone from the Missions Guild. The main door of the Missions Guild was locked. The middle-aged man replied. How is this possible? The alliance master of the second alliance narrowed his eyes and said in disbelief. He had once said that it was impossible for him to leave his own lair. This was too unbelievable. Alliance master, I've asked around. It seems that the Mission Guild has accepted a mission, so all of their people have gone to run that mission. The middle-aged man said gloomily. What kind of mission could make them come out in full force? I'm really curious. The alliance master of the second alliance said indifferently. I didn't manage to find out, but I did manage to find out the true identity of the person who killed our two alliances. The middle-aged man said. Is that person really from the Qi clan? The leader of the second alliance asked. Yes, and he's a direct descendant of the Qi clan from the divine realm. The middle-aged man said. However, what he did not know was that Lung Ruoxia had intentionally sent someone to leak this information. Her motive was to drag the Qi clan's genius down with her. Chapter 1281. The Busy Guild 4. What do you two think? The leader of the second alliance turned around and looked at his two husbands. Alliance head, so what if he's a direct descendant of the Qi family? Can a direct descendant of the Qi family kill someone from the Ascender Alliance? If we treat this matter as non-existent just because he's a direct descendant of the Qi family, how are we going to face the Ascender Alliance in the future if word of this gets out? If Yuan Biao were to know about this, wouldn't he make us laugh to death? A man said with a faint smile. Alliance master, Brother Ran is right. We can't just let this matter go, otherwise, how will you convince the public in the future? Our two alliances can't be laughed at. The other man said. You mean you want me to find that Qi family direct descendant to settle the score? The leader of the second alliance asked uncertainly. Alliance master, we're only giving you a suggestion. You're the one who decides what to do. However, if we don't pursue this matter because of the other party's identity, I'm afraid the prestige of our second alliance will be lost in the future. The man's face was filled with worry. What he said was exactly what the second alliance master wanted. Because she was indeed worried that this would happen, she was very conflicted at this moment. If we kill that Qi clan's direct descendant, wouldn't we become enemies with the Qi clan? The alliance master of the second alliance asked indifferently. Alliance head, who said we're going to kill him? We only need to kill his subordinates. We still have to give face to Qi clan. The man called Little Brother Ran quickly said. You're saying that we'll only kill his subordinates? The eyes of the alliance master of the second alliance lit up as she thought to herself. This is a good way to get the best of both worlds. This way, we won't have to form too deep a hatred with the Qi clan. After all, we have to regain the face of the Ascender Alliance. She believed that the Qi clan would understand if they did this. And, we only want the life of that subordinate of the Qi clan. As for his life, if we really take it, the Qi clan will not let this matter rest. Brother Ran nodded and looked up at the other man. The two of them communicated silently with their eyes. That's a good idea. It's settled then. We'll go to the Qi family tonight to ask for her. The alliance master of the second alliance said. After the decision was made, the alliance master of the second alliance began to instruct his subordinates to prepare for the night's operation. All of their plans were within Lung Ruoxia's grasp. At the inn where Lung Ruoxia and the others were, they were currently fretting over dinner. As there were too many people and everyone had different tastes, it was difficult to adjust everyone's opinions. Therefore, what to eat had become their biggest problem. Looking at the master of the Ning family and the first elder who were arguing with each other, Lung Ruoxia helplessly reminded them. Godfather, great elder, don't quarrel. We still have things to do tonight. Don't miss the show just because you don't know what to eat. Right. Then just eat something. The most important thing is to watch the show. The two old men immediately replied in unison. After reaching an agreement, everyone began to prepare dinner. Visit myb0xnovel.com to read please. After dinner, they concealed themselves and made their way to the Qi clan's courtyard. The Qi clan genius was still living there, while Qi Rui had already returned to Qi City. When they arrived at the Qi family's courtyard, everyone jumped onto the roof and found a comfortable spot. They took out some small snacks and placed them in front of each other, ready to watch a good show. Looking at Lung Ruoxue and the rest's smooth and natural movements, Master Ning and the Great Elder were both surprised. They could not help but think to themselves, seeing how they're so familiar with this, it's obvious that they've done this many times. Facing the strange looks from the two of them, Lung Ruoxue felt extremely awkward. Actually, they rarely did such a thing as peeking on the spot. Godfather, Great Elder, quickly find a place to sit down. It's so tiring to stand. Lung Ruoxue wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead. Their gazes made her a little shy. Shue, why didn't we watch from the inn? Why did we have to come here to enjoy the cool breeze? The master of the Ning family asked, puzzled. Godfather, how can watching a live broadcast be more enjoyable than watching a live broadcast? Besides, we're not here to watch the show. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. That's true. The master of the Ning family nodded. He was calm now. Anyway, he would listen to his good daughter. He would do whatever she asked him to do. Lung Ruoxue and the others waited for a while. Not long after, the alliance master of the Second Alliance arrived with his subordinates. They sneakily surrounded the entire courtyard. Immediately after, someone from the Two Ascender Alliance shouted, "People of Qi Clan, come out and die!" Chapter 1282, Fishing in Troubled Waters 1. Who would be so bold? How dare you come to our Qi family and cause trouble? As soon as the Ascender Alliance's side finished speaking, an even louder roar came from the courtyard. In an instant, dozens of black shadows rushed out of the courtyard. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The middle-aged man glared at the Ascender Alliance's side and said loudly, "Who are you people? You actually came to our Qi family's territory to cause trouble. You really don't want to live. We are the Ascender Alliance, and we are here to settle the score with your Qi family." Someone in the Ascender Alliance shouted, "You're here to settle accounts with us? Who do you think you are? You dare to come to our Qi clan to die? Brothers, go, teach these Ascenders who don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth a good lesson." The middle-aged man ordered. With his order, the Qi family immediately drew their weapons and rushed to the front of the Ascender Alliance. Their faces were filled with an unusually fierce expression. "Brothers, let's go too. We can't let these natives look down on us." Someone in the Ascender Alliance's team shouted, "Right. I can't let them look down on me." The Ascender Alliance's members were enraged and roared together. Then the two sides began to fight. After a long time, the two sides were still fighting. Seeing this situation, Brother Ran, who was beside the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, couldn't help but whisper worriedly, "Alliance Master, if we let them continue fighting like this, will both sides suffer? Don't worry. I won." The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was very confident in her subordinates. After all, the people she had brought were the elites of the Second Alliance. Moreover, there were many of them. Therefore, if they were to be injured, it would be the other party, not her own people. That's good. Little Brother Ran said, feeling assured. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the others who were watching the show from the roof saw that it was about time. They gave Fengda and the others a look, and then quietly went to the center of the battlefield to fish in troubled waters. "Little girl, this move of yours is really ruthless. Ha ha ha." Seeing this, the Great Elder couldn't help but smile. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. "I will definitely not let this Alliance Master of the Second Alliance go. It's impossible to stay out of this matter." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Although she did not want to have too much enmity with the Ascender Alliance, there were some things that she could not tolerate. That Qi family's genius was someone her godfather wanted to plot against, so he could only blame it on his bad luck. Yes, the Ascender Alliance's people were clearly killed by his subordinates. How could he not stand up for them? The first elder said with a smile. Visit MYB0X Novel. Com to read please. As Fengda and the others took advantage of the chaos, many people from the Ascender Alliance had died mysteriously. However, no one could see any clues. The alliance master of the two alliances only saw her subordinates fall to the ground, and did not see them wake up again. This could not help but make her angry. After walking closer to take a look, she found that her subordinates had all died. This fact directly raised her anger to the peak. Alliance master, calm down. Seeing this, Brother Ran quickly advised. How do you want me to calm down? Now it's all our people who are dead. The alliance master of the second alliance roared furiously. Alliance master, many of them were also seriously injured, so they didn't gain much advantage. Brother Ran reminded. Even so, I can't just watch my subordinates die without knowing why. The second alliance's leader still felt extremely unbalanced. Alliance master, since things have come to this, we have no other choice. I didn't expect the Qi family's subordinates to have such high combat strength. It seems like we have underestimated them. The other man said gloomily. Yeah, I didn't expect that either. The leader of the second alliance said with a dark expression. Stop. Suddenly, another voice came from the courtyard, and it was a call to stop. When the Qi family members heard this, they all stopped. As for the Ascender Alliance, they also took advantage of the situation, and did not continue to pester him. Who are you people? You actually came to our Qi clan to cause trouble? The Qi family genius walked out of the courtyard, and questioned with an unhappy expression. Young master, they claim to be the Ascender Alliance. They said that they are here to settle the score with us. The middle-aged man quickly said. The Ascender Alliance? Which league are you guys from? The Qi clan genius played dumb. In fact, he had long received news that people from the Ascender Alliance had come to Bamboo City. However, he did not take it seriously. He did not expect that these people from the Ascender Alliance would actually dare to come to his door. This was really preposterous. It was impossible for him not to know what was going on outside the courtyard. However, he did not come out immediately because he wanted his subordinates to teach the Ascender Alliance a lesson. However, he did not expect that his subordinates would be so heavy-handed and kill many people from the Ascender Alliance. As a result, he could no longer keep a close eye on it. Otherwise, he was afraid that the matter would become more and more difficult to deal with. The Alliance head of the Ascender Alliance. The Alliance master of the second alliance suppressed the anger in his heart, and said indifferently, So it's the arrival of the Alliance master of the second alliance. The Alliance master of the second alliance isn't in his own territory, but coming to my place to cause trouble. This doesn't make sense. The Qi clan genius laughed. Humph. Your subordinates have killed so many of our people. If I don't come, it'll become a laughingstock. The Alliance master of the second alliance said angrily. Alliance master of the second alliance, you may not know this, but the people from the second alliance who died at the hands of my subordinates were all asking for it. If it were you, would you be able to take it lying down when you were surrounded and shouted to kill? How can you be indifferent? The Qi clan genius asked with a smile. Even so, you can't kill the people of the second alliance. The Alliance master of the second alliance roared in anger. If I don't kill them, I'm going to become your precious daughter's exclusive property. Humph. She really dared to think about it. Not only did she send someone to kill me, but she also wanted me to be her exclusive sex slave. Is she worthy? The Qi clan genius sneered. You're saying that my daughter isn't good enough for you? The Alliance master of the second alliance narrowed his eyes, and said in an unfriendly tone. What else did you think? You're only the Alliance master of the second Ascender Alliance. In our Qi family, your daughter doesn't even have the right to be a servant. The Qi clan genius laughed. His words had provoked the second Alliance master quite a bit. Chapter 1283. Fishing in Troubled Waters 2. The leader of the second alliance had always thought of herself as the best in the Divine Mainland, and was extremely proud. In her heart, she also thought that she was the top figure in the Divine Mainland. As long as she set her eyes on something, she would definitely have it. Moreover, she was the only one who had the right to have any good things. However, now, she had been degraded by a direct descendant of the Qi family. This was absolutely intolerable to her proud self. You're only a direct descendant of the Qi family. And I'm sure there are as many direct descendants like you in the Qi family as there are hairs on an ox. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance retorted. Yup. However, no matter what, my identity and status are above yours. Qi Clan's genius said with a smile, neither angry nor annoyed. You. The Alliance Master was so angry that she couldn't say anything. After all, what he said was the truth. On the divine mainland, she might be able to call the wind and summon the rain. However, once they were in the divine world, their status was as different as the sky and the earth. So, although she was angry, she couldn't refute him. Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, I can spare your life for the sake of the Ascender Alliance. However, your subordinates have injured so many of my men. If you want to keep things at peace, then show me your sincerity. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving today. The Qi family's genius said with a smile. Although his subordinates had suffered some losses, the number of injuries was more than the number of deaths. In comparison, the losses of the two alliances were much more severe. Therefore, in order to not worsen the hatred between them and the Ascender Alliance, he did not care about it. However, even if he wanted to let it go, the other party might not agree. After hearing his words, the Alliance Master's face turned white with anger. Her whole body trembled, and she could not speak for a long time. The man beside her saw this and could not help but speak for her. Young Master Qi, you're wrong. Compared to your Qi clan, our casualties seem to be more severe. How can you say that? Who are you? I'm talking to your president. You have no right to interrupt. The Qi clan genius said unhappily. He's my husband, so his will is my will. The Second Alliance's Alliance Master quickly said when he saw his man being wronged. Oh, I've long heard that there are many men who live off women around the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. I'm sure these two are two of them. The Qi clan genius looked at the man beside the Alliance Master with disdain. Who are you calling a soft rice? You're the publicly acknowledged pretty boy. Our family's young miss just happens to want to provide for you. Why don't you just give in? Brother Ran said angrily. What did you just say? The Qi clan genius squinted his eyes and said in an unfriendly tone. Don't you understand the human language? I said that my family's young miss wants to keep you, and I've been talking about it for many days. Brother Ran said, not afraid of death. You're looking for death. Qi family's genius shouted angrily. Then, a light blue divine power shot out from his hand. Immediately, a shooting star with a light blue light flew towards Brother Ran. Alliance Master, help me. The shooting star brushed past him, and Brother Ran screamed before falling to the ground. Visit MYB0X Novelle. Com to read, please. Ran. Seeing this, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance quickly bent down to check on his husband's injuries, only to see that his beloved husband was covered in blood, and had already passed out. Qi, I won't let you go. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared in anger. As the saying goes, when you're angry, you'll be angry for the sake of your beauty. The man she liked was lying in front of her, covered in blood. Any woman would go crazy. After the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance finished shouting, he turned to his subordinates and shouted, Attack! Don't let a single person from the Qi family off. With that, she charged at the Qi family genius and began to fight with him. We can go back now. Seeing that the matter was almost settled, Lung Ruoxua smiled and said to the crowd, Girl, are you leaving now? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance hasn't surrendered yet. The First Elder said with some reluctance. To be honest, he hadn't seen enough of the show. Moreover, it seemed that this was the most lively time, so he was naturally a little reluctant to leave. It's getting late. We should go back and sleep. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. Then let's go. The First Elder wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said helplessly. After that, everyone left quietly. On the way, Fengda and the others couldn't help but ask, Miss, if we go back like this, what if that Qi family genius fails? If he fails, Then well, just kill him and say that it was the doing of the Ascender 2 Alliance. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Young lady, are you really going to do this? Fonda was speechless. How did Miss come up with such an idea? This was simply too evil. Poor Qi clan's genius. I wish you good luck. You must capture that Alliance Master of the Second Alliance alive. Otherwise you'll be the one in trouble. He thought to himself sympathetically. It's hard to say. Lung Ruoxua tried to play dumb. Actually, she had just said it casually. However, if the Qi family's genius really failed, she could not guarantee that she would not do the same. Ha ha ha. Silly boy. Shwe, or was just joking, and you took it for real. It's impossible for the Qi family's genius to fail. Don't worry, the 2 alliances leaders won't let him off. Therefore, the grudge between him and the Ascender Alliance is set in stone. The master of the Ning family laughed, obviously in a good mood. What if he fails? Fonda didn't trust the Qi family's genius. Then he can only become the prisoner of the Second Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter. He injured her husband, so how could she let him go? She'll definitely torture the Qi family's genius after capturing him. So, we just need to watch a good show. We'll see at dawn. The master of the Ning family said happily. Yes. Fonda nodded, but he couldn't help thinking in his heart that it seemed that the master of the Ning family and the young lady had the same thoughts. Woo. These 2 bad-hearted guys. The Qi family genius was so pitiful. They had actually joined forces to scheme against him. After returning to the inn, everyone went to sleep in peace. The next day, Qingju informed Lung Ruoxua of the news the moment she woke up. Just as she had expected, the Second League's leader had been captured by the Qi family's genius and locked up in the Qi family's prison. Chapter 1284. Fishing in Troubled Waters 3. When Lung Ruoxua heard this news, she nodded her head in satisfaction. She thought to herself, thank God, the Qi family's genius didn't let me down. If he couldn't even deal with a woman, then he'll definitely look down on him. Once they were out of the room, Lung Ruoxua informed everyone of the news. Shwe, shouldn't we pay a visit to the Qi family's genius next? Master Ning said with a smile. Godfather, it's not a visit, it's a condolence. The Qi family courtyard was disturbed yesterday, and the news has already spread throughout the entire city. We are friends after all, and it is only right for us to visit and express our condolences. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Right. It's a condolence. Master Ning said with a smile. After breakfast, Lung Ruoxua brought Fonda and the rest to the Qi family's courtyard. The butler led Lung Ruoxua and the others into the living room, and went to inform the Qi family's geniuses. Not long after, the Qi clan's geniuses arrived at the living room with an exhausted expression. When they saw Lung Ruoxua and the rest, their mood was lifted. How come Miss Lung and the others are free to come today? The Qi family genius suppressed the joy in his heart and asked with a smile. We heard that the Qi family's courtyard was attacked this morning, so we're here to express our condolences. Lung Ruoxua said indifferently. Oh, I didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. Even Miss Lung knows about it. The Qi clan's genius said, somewhat embarrassed. In his opinion, this was not a glorious matter. After all, he had paid a painful price to capture the 2 alliances' leaders alive. When he thought of this, the anger in his heart surged. However, he also knew that the conflict with the Ascender Alliance would not be resolved. Yes, everyone in the city knows about it. I heard that it was done by the Ascender Alliance. Young Master Qi, is this related to the previous incident? Lung Ruoxua asked in a probing manner. Yes, it's all that woman's fault. The Qi family's genius was very depressed. As long as he thought of that woman, his heart would itch with hatred. Originally, he didn't want to argue with the Ascender Alliance, but they didn't appreciate it. Then what does young Master Qi plan to do? Lung Ruoxua asked curiously. Does Miss Lung have any good ideas? The Qi clan genius couldn't help but ask. Please read on website. myboxin0vel. To be honest, am considered an enemy of the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. Naturally, I don't want her to have an easy time. Lung Ruoxua said directly. Yes, I know. The Qi clan genius nodded. After all, they had provoked the daughter of the Second Alliance together. However, the Second Ascender Alliance only looked for him to settle the score. This made him feel somewhat unbalanced in his heart. However, if he could drag Lung Ruoxue and the others down with him, he would be happy to do so. So young Master Qi, you must not let her off. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. I wonder how we should deal with her to satisfy Miss Lung? The Qi clan genius asked. Young Master Qi, doesn't the Second Alliance's Alliance Master like to turn people into slaves? Then how about we turn them into slaves too? Lung Ruoxue suggested. This isn't very good. The Qi clan's genius was somewhat hesitant. If he killed the man, the Ascender Alliance would not want to offend the Qi clan no matter how angry they were. If he sold the two alliances' leaders as slaves, it would be a great humiliation to the Ascender Alliance. The Ascender Alliance would definitely not let this matter rest. You're scared? No matter how powerful the Ascender Alliance was, they would not dare to provoke the Qi family, right? What's more, don't forget that the mother and daughter are going to treat you as their exclusive property. If the mother and daughter can do such a thing, what else do you have to worry about? Could it be that you have a tender heart for the woman? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. Let's do as Miss Lung said. The Qi family genius pondered for a moment and said, yes. Since he had already offended her, why was he still worrying about this and that? However, I'm afraid that Child Qi has to deal with the Mission Guild personally. I heard that President Zhang Yan has a close relationship with the leaders of the two alliances. Lung Ruoxue reminded. In other words, she was telling them not to send any subordinates or count on others to step in. Young Lady Lung, although Zhang Yan and I can't be considered friends, we're old acquaintances. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for me to handle this matter. If young Lady Lung is willing to handle this matter on my behalf, I'll be extremely grateful. The Qi clan genius said after some thought. Since this idea was Lung Ruoxue's, he naturally couldn't let her stay out of it. Otherwise he would suffer a huge loss. Oh, if there's no problem with helping young Master Qi, what do I get in return? Lung Ruoxue said in a businesslike manner. What benefits does Miss Lung want? The Qi clan's genius wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. How could he have forgotten that this young Miss Lung wasn't that easy to order around? Woo. He had been too careless. What kind of benefits can young Master Qi give me? Lung Ruoxue asked calmly. Actually, she really wanted to ask. Just how much authority do you have? Even though it was her idea to sell the mother and daughter as slaves, it was not possible for her to run errands for nothing. 500,000 high-grade crystal stones. This is the most I can take out. The Qi clan genius said after some thought. Deal. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Even though she wasn't short of money and 500,000 high-grade crystal stones wasn't a lot in her eyes, if she didn't ask for anything, she was afraid that this genius from the Qi clan would become suspicious. Thus, she could only accept it reluctantly. Then I'll be waiting for Miss Lung's good news. The Qi clan genius said in satisfaction. He had thought that Lung Ruoxue would demand an exorbitant price. Seeing that she didn't haggle over the price, he felt much better. Young Master Qi, other than that mother and daughter, can you give me her two husbands? Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. What's wrong? Miss Lung has seen her two husbands? The Qi clan's genius asked suspiciously when he heard Lung Ruoxue's words. I've never seen them before, but it's no secret that the president of the Second Alliance has many beautiful men by her side. I've also heard that the two men she's bringing with her are her most beloved ones. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be envious. And that's true. Those two men are indeed extremely handsome, not the slightest bit inferior to the ones you're with. After listening to Lung Ruoxue's explanation, the Qi family's genius was relieved. Recently he had been very suspicious, and she didn't know what was going on. Chapter 1285. Fishing in Troubled Waters 4. Then can young Master Qi give them to me? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. It's fine to give one to you. As for the other one, I've injured it, and it's very serious. So, even if I give it to you, I'm afraid it won't live long. The Qi clan genius said apologetically. It doesn't matter. If he really doesn't have long to live, I'll give him a proper burial. I heard that most of the men around the Second Alliance's master were snatched. He's really too pitiful. Lung Ruoxue said with a look of sympathy. I didn't expect young Miss Lung to be someone who has tender feelings for women. The Qi clan genius said with a sour feeling in his heart. Young Master Qi, we're the same. It's just that you pity women and it's the exact opposite. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. That's true. The Qi family's genius replied unwillingly. In fact, the person he wanted to pity more was sitting in front of him. Unfortunately, this woman was not someone who would be at his mercy, so he could only watch helplessly. This feeling of being able to see, but not being able to eat it was not a good feeling. However, as a direct descendant of a large family, it was important to adjust one's mental state. Hence, he quickly adjusted his mental state. Then he instructed the butler to bring out the few people who were locked up in the cell yesterday, intending to hand them over to Lung Ruoxue. In the hall, the alliance leader of the Second Alliance couldn't help but shout when he saw the Qi family genius. Damn it, let us go now. Otherwise, our Ascender Alliance will not let you off. How dare a prisoner be so arrogant? It seems that the lesson I gave you was not enough. The Qi family's genius sneered. Last night, he had ordered his subordinates to take good care of this mother and daughter. He wondered if they had done well. I won't let you off. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance threatened as her beautiful eyes glowed with a cold light, as if she wanted to tear the Qi family direct descendant into pieces. Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the mother and daughter from the Second Alliance. Their originally bright and beautiful clothes were now in tatters, and their faces looked haggard. It was obvious that they had suffered a lot in just one night. It seemed like the genius from the Qi family did not know how to deal with the mother and daughter, but in reality, he had already done it. No wonder Qingju was mumbling in the morning. It seemed that the Qi family's genius did not deal with the mother and daughter in an open manner. However, this was none of her business. You can't even protect yourself now, so how can you not let me go? The Qi family genius laughed coldly, obviously treating the words of the Second Alliance leader as a joke. Our Ascender Alliance will avenge me. The leader of the Second Alliance said confidently. Oh really? Then I'll be waiting. The Qi clan genius said nonchalantly. Since they had already become enemies, why should they care about the Ascender Alliance's attitude? Miss Lung, you can take these people away. The Qi clan genius turned to Lung Ruoxue. Please read on website. myboxin0vel. Come alright, he said. Lung Ruoxue smiled and nodded. It's you? Mother. This is the woman who stole our slave. The moment the young woman saw Lung Ruoxue, she roared out in jealousy. She had even forgotten that Lung Ruoxue was now a prisoner. You're the one who snatched my slave? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance asked while suppressing his anger. Is that your slave? Lung Ruoxue laughed sarcastically and could not help but sigh to herself. Mother and daughter are mother and daughter. He didn't even look at the situation he was in right now, yet he still dared to question her so righteously. It was really ridiculous. Of course it's mine. That's the slave I put up for auction at the Quest Guild. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared in anger. So it was this woman who had stolen her things and caused the death of so many people from the Second Alliance. She was too despicable. At this moment, a part of her hatred towards the Qi family's direct line of descent had already been transferred to Lung Ruoxue. Since you wanted to auction it, what's wrong with me buying it? Did you not receive the money? If that's the case, then I'm afraid you can only settle the score with the Mission Guild. After all, we bought it with a clear price, right? Young Master Qi? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. That's right, I've paid for the 2 slaves. Besides, Alliance Master too. Don't you realize your situation? Your current status is lower than us. What right do you have to shout at us? The Qi family genius was speechless. To be honest, he had met many people, but this was the first time he had seen such a pair of outrageous mother and daughter. Chapter 1286, Compensation 1. You just wait. I won't let you off. The beautiful eyes of the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance glared at Lung Ruoxue, and the Qi family's genius as she threatened them. Although she knew that she had no other choice, her personality and the fact that she had been in a high position for so many years had made her used to ordering people around. Hence, even though she had been reduced to a prisoner, she still could not see the situation clearly. Otherwise, she would not have done something so unwise and disadvantageous to her. Young Master Qi, someone is threatening us. What do you think? Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes narrowed as she asked with a faint smile. Miss Lung, since I've given them all to you, then everything about them will be up to you to decide. The Qi clan genius chuckled. In other words, he could do whatever he wanted with her and he wouldn't question her. How can I do that? They are your goods after all. I'm just running errands for you. If they are injured, you won't blame me, right? Lung Ruoxia pretended to be worried and asked. At this point in time, this Qi family's genius still did not dare to take responsibility. This was unacceptable. I won tea. The Qi family genius gritted his teeth and couldn't help but secretly complain. This woman in front of him really didn't want to suffer any losses. It seemed that it was impossible for him to get rid of the two league leaders. That's good. I'm relieved. Fongda, take them and let's go back. Lung Ruoxia smiled at Fongda and the rest. Then she turned to the Qi family's genius and said, Young Master Qi, we will take our leave now. Everything will be done as you said. All right. The Qi family genius was depressed. What did he mean by just do as he said? The idea of selling the mother and daughter as slaves was clearly thought of by this woman in front of him. Now, she had actually pushed the blame onto him. He could not deny it in front of Lung Ruoxia. Otherwise, Lung Ruoxia would have to quit. After Lung Ruoxia and the rest left, the butler looked at their backs and asked the Qi family genius worriedly, Young master, will this cause any trouble? What trouble can there be? They're just two small characters in the Ascender Alliance. The Qi clan genius said unhappily. Since he had already decided to do this, why would he care about the trouble? There would definitely be trouble, and it would not be small. However, since things had come to this, he couldn't care so much. With that, the Qi family genius returned to his room in a huff. After Lung Ruoxia and the rest achieved their goal, and left the Qi family courtyard, they immediately returned to the inn. When they reached the room, Lung Ruoxia ordered people to keep an eye on the four of them. The mother and daughter were to be sold as slaves, and she had to find Xingyan to do this. As for the other two, Lung Ruoxia brought Fongda and the rest to the room where the two men were locked up. After they entered, she ordered Fongda to give the two of them some pills. Little brother Ran, who was on the verge of death, immediately became as lively as a dragon. Thank you for saving my life, miss. The two handsome men said in unison. No need to thank me. You've done what you were supposed to do. From now on you're free. Lung Ruoxia said with a smile. Please read on website, myboxin0vel.com. In the information she had given them, there was a detailed record of every man who was with the master of the Second Alliance. Therefore, when she found out that the master of the Second Alliance had come to Ying City, she had sent someone to find the two of them and promised that as long as they cooperated with her plan, she would set them free. Although the two men appeared to be gentle and considerate to the master of the Second Alliance, they actually hated that woman to the core. Therefore, they were easily persuaded by the person she had sent. Otherwise, the trip to the Qi family courtyard would not have been so smooth. Since they were working for her, she had to ensure their safety. After hearing her words, the two men did not show any joy on their faces. After a long while, to be honest, miss, we have no home to return to. Back then, in order to force us to marry her, that woman used our family members to threaten us. Later on, we pretended to be snakes and slowly learned from her that our family members couldn't stand her torture and humiliation. Some died, and some committed suicide. What are your plans? Lung Ruoxia asked softly after hearing what Brother Ran said. We don't know. We are weak and have been kept in captivity for so many years. I'm afraid we can't survive on this continent. The godly mainland is a place where the strong prey on the weak. People without strength and status can't survive. The other man said. Moreover, if the Ascender Alliance knows what we have done, I'm afraid they won't let us go. Brother Ran said. How about this? I'll give you a sum of money. You can find a small city to live and cultivate in. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. The two men looked at each other, then knelt down and said in unison, "We don't want money. With our strength, we can't keep the money even if we have it. We might even cause an unexpected disaster. So, we dare to ask Miss to take us in. We're willing to be your slaves, just to have a place to stay." Lung Ruoxue looked at the two men who were kneeling in front of her, and remained silent for a long time. To be honest, she was not willing to cause such trouble, so she would rather spend money to dismiss them. However, these two men were speaking the truth. They really had nowhere else to go. Sigh. Should he take them in? Looking at his misconflicted expression, Fodder chuckled and said, "Miss, didn't they want to find a place to stay? Just let them go to Northern Yen City. The city lord's mansion just happens to be lacking servants to do odd jobs. Are you willing to do so?" Fodder turned around and asked the two men. "We are willing." The two men said without any hesitation, "You'd better think clearly first. You're free now, but once you go to the city lord's mansion you'll be servants. So, you'll have to think carefully before you choose." Fodder reminded him with a smile. "We've already decided." The two of them said in unison. They would rather be servants than wander around. "All right, since that's the case, you guys can play dead first," Fodder said with a smirk. Pretending to be dead? The two of them were stunned, not understanding what Fodder meant. Chapter 1287. Compensation 2. If you don't play dead, do you want that woman to think that you're still alive? It's said that the two of you are the ones she dotes on the most. So her biggest blow will be your deaths. Fodder's face was affable, but the words he said were very vicious. "Good. Well, play dead." The two of them shouted after hearing Fodder's words. "Then eat these 2 pills, and you'll have nothing to do with this." Fodder took out 2 black elixirs and handed them to the two of them. After dealing with the two men, Lung Ruoxue and the rest went to the room where the Alliance Master and daughter were kept. As soon as they entered, the young woman began to curse. "That damned woman! We won't let you off for treating us like this." Fodder blocked her mouth. Lung Ruoxue did not even spare the young lady a glance as she instructed Fodder. "All right." Fodder took out a smelly cloth from somewhere, opened the young woman's mouth, and stuffed the cloth in. Whoa! The young woman struggled, but she was tied up like a dumpling and had no way of breaking free. "Be appointed. Your fate is now in our hands." After Fodder finished speaking, he took out another piece of cloth and covered the Alliance Master's mouth to prevent them from saying anything unpleasant. Woo! The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance shook his head vigorously. He wanted to say something but could not. He could only glare at Lung Ruoxue fiercely, as if he wanted to cut her into 1,000 pieces. "Bring them in." Lung Ruoxue turned around and shouted. "Yes." The door was pushed open, and Lin Yuan and the others carried the two men in. When the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance saw this, her eyes widened even more, and her beautiful eyes were red as though they were asking, "What did you do to them?" "Second Alliance Master, your 2 beloved men were heavily injured and have passed away," Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. "Oh." The Alliance Master's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the 2 men on the ground in disbelief. Their faces were abnormally pale, and they were emitting a frighteningly cold aura. They had clearly been dead for a while. Please read on website. myboxin0vel. Fodder, remove the cloth from her mouth first. Don't suffocate our Lord Alliance Master. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Yes. Yes, Fodder replied. After he finished speaking, he removed the cloth from the mouth of the Alliance Master. "You killed them? I won't let you off." As soon as Bu Gang took it off, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance shouted at the top of his lungs. "I didn't kill them," Lung Ruoxue said softly. "Who is that?" The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance had a look of disbelief on her face. They were still alive just a moment ago, but now they were dead. This detestable woman must have something to do with this. Hence, she did not believe Lung Ruoxue's words at all. "It's you. They already knew that you killed their families, and now that they see you, they won't have a good ending." They felt that they had gotten their revenge and there was no joy in life, so they committed suicide. Lung Ruoxue stated this fact indifferently. This was a fact that the self-righteous alliance master of the Second Alliance could not accept. No. This was impossible. How did they know? You lied to me. I don't believe your words. The alliance master of the Second Alliance was a little crazy as he shouted in a daze. These are the last words they left for you. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she passed Fodder a piece of paper, indicating for him to show it to the alliance master of the Second Alliance. Nah. Take a good look and see if it's their handwriting. Fodder showed the paper to the leader of the Second Alliance and reminded him. The alliance master's eyes widened. She wanted to carefully confirm the handwriting on the paper and find any traces of imitation. However, she was disappointed to find out that it was indeed the handwriting of her two beloved ones. After all, they had lived together for so long and she was very familiar with everything about them. The paper was indeed as the woman in front of her had said. Her two beloved ones had committed suicide. This fact made her collapse. My condolences. I'll give them a proper burial for you. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Can I personally watch them be buried? The Second Alliance's alliance master was begging for Dao, but she still refused to give up. She didn't believe that the man who had just shared a bed with her was gone just like that. How could she accept this fact? Prisoners don't have the right to ask for it. You should be satisfied that I'm willing to bury them. From now on, you should be a good slave and atone for your sins. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. Even at this point, this woman still refused to give up. She really didn't know if it was because of her overconfidence or if she really couldn't see the truth in front of her. He felt sorry for her, but she asked for it. With that, Lung Ruoxue led the group away. Before they left, Fodder was afraid that they would be too noisy, so he naturally used the stinky cloth to shut the alliance master's mouth. After leaving the room where the Second Alliance's leader was locked up, the people who had been holding their breath all this time finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fodder, where did you get those two pieces of cloth? It's really stinky. Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. Hehe. Miss, it was the innkeeper of this inn who helped me find it. Fodder said honestly. Oh. It seems that the manager of this inn is also a black-bellied guy. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Yes, Chirue must have told him before he left. Otherwise he wouldn't be so cooperative. Fodder said. The shopkeeper was very polite to them now, and his attitude was very good. That's for sure. Fodder, bring a few people with you to the mission guild. The rest of you, stay in the inn and watch the mother and daughter. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. It was time for her to show herself and make a trip to the Guild of Missions. Yes. Fodder replied. Then he Lin Yuan, Cheng Wu, and Lung Ruoxue accompanied Demon to the Missions Guild. When they arrived at the Mission Guild, they found that the door of the Mission Guild was left ajar, so they pushed the door open and walked in. The waiter, who had been busy with his task for the past few days, had to stand up to welcome their client when he saw him. His face still had a trace of fatigue. How come you're here so fast? We haven't finished all our tasks yet. The waiter said apologetically. Chapter 1288. Compensation 3. It's okay, we have another mission. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. The moment the waiter heard Lung Ruoxue's words, his expression changed. What other missions are there? The waiter asked carefully, his voice trembling. In order to complete their task, they had not had a good night's sleep these days. Now that they had not completed the task they had been assigned, who knew that another task would come? How could they live? Only your guild leader can do this quest. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she said. She then walked past the waiter and led the group upstairs. In the president's office, Zheng Yan was sitting inside and drinking tea, looking very relaxed. When he saw someone push the door open and enter, he was about to start scolding, but when he realized it was Lung Ruoxue and the others, he could only swallow his words. Miss, why are you here? Zheng Yan asked curiously. As far as he knew, their mission had not been completed yet. If it was completed, someone would naturally deliver it to the inn for them. Therefore he was very puzzled. Why would someone who was said to be in closed-door cultivation come to the mission guild? President Zeng, you're really free. Your subordinates are all busy, but you're leisurely drinking tea in your office. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. After she finished speaking, she found a seat and sat down. Hee hee, miss, you really know how to joke. As the president, I naturally don't have to do everything by myself. After all, there are more important things waiting for me to do. Zeng Yan said with a smile. President Zeng is right. I'm here because I have an important task to entrust to you. Lung Ruoxua said indifferently. Is there anything else you need, miss? Zeng Yan's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, could it be something broken again? These days, his subordinates had all been complaining, which annoyed him to death. However, for the sake of the top-grade fire attribute crystal, he had to force them to do it. I would like to ask President Zeng to help me get 2 slots for slaves. In addition, I would like to hold a special slave auction. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Didn't Miss already release the 2 slaves she bought? Could it be that they didn't listen to her, so Miss is regretting it now? Zeng Yan asked with a gossipy look. No, I'm talking about the other 2, Lung Ruoxua laughed. Oh, no problem. As long as Miss hands over the names of those 2, I will be responsible for handling everything for Miss. Zeng Yan said with a smile. Then I'll have to trouble President Zeng. These are their names. After Lung Ruoxua finished speaking, she handed over a piece of paper. Please read on website. Myboxin 0VEL. Zeng Yan took the paper and looked at it, and his expression changed drastically. Why did these 2 names sound so familiar? If he didn't remember wrongly, the Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter seemed to be called by these 2 names. Miss, these 2 people's names are exactly the same as a friend I know. I wonder who they are. Zeng Yan asked tentatively. This coincidence was a bit too much. If only one person had the same name, it would barely be considered normal. However, it was definitely abnormal for 2 people to have the same name. May I know who President Zeng's friend is? Lung Ruoxua asked despite knowing the answer. The friend I know is the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance's second alliance. Zeng Yan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. What a coincidence. These 2 slaves of mine were the mother and daughter of the 2 Ascender Alliance. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. What? Zeng Yan was shocked. He stood up from his seat with a whoosh. He really didn't expect that the beautiful woman in front of him, the person who was going to become a slave, was an acquaintance of his. How could this be? President Zeng, are you very surprised? Wasn't the divine realm where the strong were respected? Even though the Second Alliance's Alliance Master had once been a force to be reckoned with, she's now just my prisoner. By the way, the person she offended is a direct descendant of the Qi family. I'm just running errands for him. Lung Ruoxua said with a half-smile. Why did she offend the Qi family's direct line of descent? Zeng Yan was very surprised. He knew that woman's nature very well. He knew that she was arrogant and didn't put anyone in her eyes. However, he didn't expect her to have the courage to offend a direct descendant of the Qi family. Wasn't she courting death? It is said that she led the Ascender Alliance to besiege the Qi clan's courtyard and killed many of the Qi clan's guards. Of course, she also suffered heavy losses and even became a prisoner of the Qi clan's direct descendant. The cause of this was the 2 slaves that young Master Qi had taken from the Mission Guild a few days ago. Do you understand what I'm saying, President Zeng? Lung Ruoxua asked as she stared at Zeng Yan. Understood. Zeng Yan's face turned pale. In fact, he did not care about what would happen to the mother and daughter of the Ascender Alliance. It was just that when he thought about how he had handled the 2 slaves taken away by the Qi family's direct descendants, and how the stupid mother and daughter had come to his door to seek revenge, he felt a chill in his heart. Coupled with the words of the woman in front of him, he had a bad feeling. Since you understand, will President Zeng handle this matter well? Lung Ruoxua asked calmly. Don't worry, miss. Leave this matter to me. It'll be absolutely safe. Zeng Yan said hurriedly, the cold sweat in his heart dripping down. He knew that this matter was the revenge of the Qi family's direct descendants and this young lady in front of him against the mother and daughter pair. If he refused or did not do his best, then the next person they would deal with would be him. Therefore, the situation was pressing, and he had no choice but to lower his head. Since that's the case, I'll wait for President Zeng's good news. I wonder how the fee will be calculated. Lung Ruoxua thought for a while and asked, I'll handle this matter for you free of charge. Zeng Yan said a little fearfully. Now he only hoped to send this big trouble away. How would he dare to mention money? AI. Now he finally knew that money was not easy to earn. And the mission of this young lady in front of him was even more of a hot potato. He couldn't take it. Free of charge? Lung Ruoxua asked with a smile. Otherwise, what would miss mean? Zeng Yan was extremely depressed. He had already said that it was free. Why was this lady still not satisfied? Could it be that he wanted him to pay for it? Chapter 1289. Compensation for President Zeng. To be honest, the 2 slaves that young Master Qi bought, the ones that I asked you to help me release, are my friends. How do you think we should settle this debt? Lung Ruoxua asked in a carefree manner. I wonder what young lady wants to do. Zeng Yan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and asked carefully with a smile. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating because he knew that the other party was going to settle the score with him. After all, he had helped the 2 of them to become slaves. Although he was not the mastermind, he could be considered an accomplice. What should he do now? At this moment, his heart was in a mess and he didn't know what to do. My friend was sold as a slave by your friend, and President Zeng actually asked me what I wanted to do? What do you think I should do? Lung Ruoxua asked instead of answering. This. Zeng Yan was so anxious that he was sweating profusely, but he didn't know how to start. Is President Zeng in a difficult position? Lung Ruoxua asked with a hint of mockery. I told you to recognize money and not people, but now you're going to reap what you sow. Miss, if you have any requests, just tell me. As long as it's within my means, I'll definitely do my best. Zeng Yan mumbled. President Zeng, seeing that this isn't the first time we've met, I'll be honest. My 2 friends have been deeply affected by this matter, and are now on the verge of collapse. So you should think about how you can compensate my 2 friends. After you've made up your mind, look for me at the inn. Otherwise you'll regret it. Lung Ruoxua warned. With that, Lung Ruoxua led Fengda and the rest out of the mission's guild. Miss. Zeng Yan looked at Lung Ruoxua's and the others' back view in a daze. He felt extremely depressed. How would he know how he was going to compensate them? Why didn't he make things clear before leaving? Lung Ruoxua, Fengda, and the rest quickly returned to the inn. In the living room, Master Ning looked at Lung Ruoxua and the rest who had returned so quickly. He was puzzled and asked, Why did you come back so quickly? Could it be that Zeng Yan doesn't know what's good for him? Don't be afraid. Your godfather will make the decision for you. I'll think of a way to make him lose his position as the president tomorrow. Godfather, what are you thinking? Of course, we'll come back when we're done. Lung Ruoxua said with a helpless smile. Oh, how about that? Did it go smoothly? The master of the Ning family asked with concern. It's all right. He once told me to make my own request, but I refused. Lung Ruoxua said honestly. Please read on website. Myboxin 0vel. Well, it's good to reject them. Why should we take the initiative to ask for their help when they did something wrong? It's as if we robbed him. The master of the Ning family praised. He was assured that this good daughter would do things well. She was much better than the descendants of his family. I'll let him think about it himself. Lung Ruoxua added. Yes, that's right. If we're not satisfied with the compensation he can come up with, he naturally can't pass. The master of the Ning family said with a smirk, but he couldn't help but praise in his heart. This good daughter was really more and more pleasing to the eye. He had his style. The next day, Zeng Yan couldn't wait any longer and personally came to visit. He sat in the living room and faced everyone's unfriendly gazes. He felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles and was restless, but he had no choice but to come. Is President Zeng here to send me a slave certificate? When's the special auction? Lung Ruoxua played dumb. Miss, that mission is currently being completed. I've come today specifically for the matter of compensation. Zeng Yan smiled apologetically. His heart was beating fast and cold sweat was dripping from his forehead. President Zeng, have you thought it through? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. Yes, this is the compensation that I have thought of. If Miss is not satisfied with it, I can make some changes. Zeng Yan said gloomily and passed a piece of paper to Leng Ruoxue. This was probably the most depressing thing he had ever encountered since he became the president. It was just a simple slave contract, but he had to go bankrupt and have to pay compensation. He was really about to vomit blood. Leng Ruoxue took it and glanced at it casually, but she did not say anything. Instantly, Zeng Yan's heart was in his throat. Woo. She did not speak for so long. What was the meaning of this? To be honest, if this matter didn't involve the direct descendants of the Qi family, he might not be so happy to compensate. One had to know that this was all his private money. After all, he didn't dare to use the guild's money for personal use, and he also didn't dare to report this matter to the headquarters. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to continue being the guild leader. Is there anything that young Miss is not satisfied with? Zeng Yan asked carefully. Does President Zeng think that he'll be satisfied with such compensation? Leng Ruoxue placed the piece of paper on the table beside her and asked indifferently. Chapter 1290. The Fickleness of Human Nature 1. I don't know if Miss has any other questions, but as long as I can do it, I will do my best. Zeng Yan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. At this moment, his fear of Leng Ruoxue had risen to a whole new level. After all, he had taken out half of his family's savings that he had accumulated over the years for this compensation. However, who knew that she was still not satisfied? Sob. This was really too detestable. This was clearly a lion's mouth. This group of vampires. Now he didn't have any hope of earning their money. He only hoped to get rid of them as soon as possible. Unfortunately, these people were obviously not that easy to get rid of. President Zeng, I'll tell you the truth. We don't lack this bit of money, so if you really want to compensate us, then show me your sincerity. You're clearly trying to send us away casually. Moreover, I don't have any problem with this. What I want to see is President Zeng's sincerity. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Can young lady speak more clearly? Zeng Yan asked shamelessly. He really didn't want to play hide-and-seek with them anymore. Can't you just say what you want? Wu, this group of evil scoundrels. Guild leader Zeng, what is the highest authority you can do in the Guild of Missions? Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. I can accept any mission or commission as long as I pay enough money. Zeng Yan frowned as he thought. What else? Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. There's nothing else, Zeng Yan said hurriedly. You really don't have any more? President Zeng, do you need to think carefully? You're getting a little forgetful when you get old. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Zeng Yan broke out in a cold sweat. In fact, he still didn't quite understand what the woman in front of him meant. Or it could be said that he didn't think in any other way at all. Do you need me to remind President Zeng? Leng Ruoxue looked at Zeng Yan with her beautiful eyes. Miss, please tell me directly. I really can't think of anything. Zeng Yan was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. These people were really too difficult to serve. They wanted him to compensate and make his own guess. How could there be such people? If I'm not wrong, the other purpose of the Mission Guild is to collect information about the major families. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. How did Miss know? Zeng Yan was secretly surprised. Other than the guild leaders of the Mission Guild, the ordinary staff members didn't know about this. They often mixed this matter with the mission and let others do it, so they had never revealed any clues. Therefore, he really couldn't think of how this beautiful woman in front of him had guessed it. I guessed it. The Quest Guild has branches in every major city, and the quests they take on every day are extremely complicated, so it's not hard to guess. More importantly, the Quest Guild belongs to the God Lord's estate, so it's not hard to understand your purpose. It's also quite normal. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Please read on website. Myboxen 0vel. The Master God was the true master of the divine world. The 8 great divine domains, including all the clans in the divine world, were theoretically considered the Master God's subjects. However, the Master God was different from the royal families in the lower realm, because other than maintaining the normal order of the divine world, the Master God basically did not care about anything. Hence, the 8 great divine domains had appeared in the divine world. However, judging from the current situation, although the Master God did not really care about anything, everything in the divine world was still within his control. Moreover, based on her understanding of this God Lord, the God Lord of the divine world was clearly not worthy of his name. On the surface, he did not care about anything, but in reality, his desire to control was incomparably strong. I wonder what Miss wants me to do? Zheng Yan asked in disbelief. Actually, after hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, he had already guessed her motive. However, he was unwilling to say those words because once he did, it would mean that he would have to have an unclear relationship with these people forever. This was something that he absolutely did not want to see. Furthermore, if the Divine Lord's manor found out about this, he could forget about continuing as the president. President Zheng, you're just pretending to be confused. Since that's the case, there's nothing more for us to talk about. You can go back now. Lung Ruoxia said angrily. After she finished speaking, she even asked him to leave. Miss, don't be like this. Let's discuss this. Zheng Yan said hurriedly. He didn't expect such a beautiful woman to turn hostile so quickly. It was too terrifying. President Zheng is so insincere. What else do we have to talk about? Also, you can take back the compensation. We're not beggars. We don't need you to send us off. Lung Ruoxia laughed coldly. As soon as Lung Ruoxia finished speaking, Fengde and Chengwu immediately went to Zheng Yan's side and threw him out of the room. After Zheng Yan was thrown out, the master of the Ning family calmly said, Shui, you want the information he has? Why did this girl have the same thoughts as him? Could this be the so-called if we're not family, we won't enter the same door? He couldn't help but think to himself. Yes. Although Zheng Yan has been the president for many years, he doesn't have much on him. Instead of robbing him, we might as well ask for something more useful to us. Lung Ruoxia explained. Actually, she wanted to get information about the Divine Master's estate directly. However, she was afraid that it would scare Zheng Yan, and she also thought that he would not know about it. Hence, she took a roundabout route and planned to slowly get more useful information from Zheng Yan. Girl, even though your idea is good, he's only the president of a branch in the godly mainland. He doesn't know much, so I'm afraid we can't get any useful information from him. The Great Elder reminded after some thought. Great Elder, it's precisely because his position is not high that we can make better use of and control him. When his position slowly rises, do you think we want no more? Lung Ruoxia laughed evilly. The more insignificant a person was, the greater their desire for power would be. Hence, she believed that as long as she gave Zheng Yan enough benefits, he would definitely be of use to her. All she had to do was to help Zheng Yan rise to a higher position. That was all. Although she didn't have this idea in the first place, it was obviously better than robbing Zheng Yan directly. After all, this was for the long term. Chapter 1291. The Fickleness of Human Nature, 2. You mean you still want to help him continue to climb up? The Great Elder and the Master of the Ning family looked at each other and said in unison. Although the Master of the Ning family also wanted to get some information about the other families from Zheng Yan, neither he nor the Great Elder had thought of supporting Zheng Yan. After all, their status was too high. There were countless small figures like Zheng Yan in the divine world, so he was naturally not worthy of their attention. It could be said that they had never thought about this. However, Lung Ruoxia's idea brightened their eyes. It was a great idea. In that case, wouldn't Zheng Yan have to listen to them? Of course we'll help him continue to climb up. However, the premise of helping him is to see if he's tactful and worth our help. If we help an ungrateful person, then wouldn't our efforts be in vain? Lung Ruoxia chuckled. He didn't dare to be ungrateful. At most, he could just make him sign a blood contract. We're not that easy to make use of. The Master of the Ning family said with a wretched smile. Girl, your idea is good, but you've already chased Zheng Yan out. Will he come back? The Great Elder asked worriedly. He now felt that Zheng Yan was a good chess piece. Don't worry, he'll be back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to climb from a waiter to the position of president. He knows what is the best choice for him, but he likes to play dumb. So we might as well give him the cold shoulder for a few days, and he will naturally give in. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Ha ha. Little girl, leave the rest to me. I'll make that Zheng Yan suffer. The master of the Ning family also said with an evil smile. All right, then I'll be waiting to watch a good show. Lung Ruoxue understood. Her godfather was planning to put pressure on Zheng Yan. Sure enough, in the next few days, Zheng Yan's tough days came. First, he was inexplicably demoted to a waiter by the association. It was said that he had accidentally offended a big shot in the divine world, and the waiter of the association took the opportunity to take his position. Now the relationship between the two was reversed. As the saying goes, a new official takes on 3 fires when he takes office, and Zheng Yan naturally became the first target of the waiter who was successful. As long as it was a tiring and complicated task, it was guaranteed that Zheng Yan would be the one to complete it. Moreover, he did not stop and did not have a moment to rest. Although Zheng Yan knew that the other party was a villain who had achieved success and wanted to take the opportunity to take revenge, he could not figure out which big shot from the divine realm he had offended. Although he had thought that it could be the Qi family or Lung Ruoxue, the Mission Guild was under the jurisdiction of the Divine Master's estate. They should not have such power. When he thought of this, he immediately dispelled his suspicions of Lung Ruoxue. As for whether it was the Qi clan's doing, he was not sure. Unless the Qi clan's old ancestor stepped in, the mission association would not give any face to the Qi clan. Moreover, he did not know that the mother and daughter from the Second Alliance had attacked the Qi clan's courtyard. So the Qi clan would not blame him for it. The more he thought about it, the more he didn't know who was dealing with him. Forget it, I won't think about it. Zheng Yan heaved a heavy sigh and felt depressed. He really did not know when he would be able to live like this. Thanks unknowingly, Zheng Yan had walked to the door of a restaurant. Just as he was about to enter, he was stopped by the waiter at the door. I'm sorry, President Sung. This little store can't afford to entertain you. Please go to another house for a meal. The waiter stood in front of Zheng Yan and said. Then he smiled and said apologetically, I'm sorry. I forgot that you're not the president now, Waiter Zheng. You, hearing the waiter's condescending words, Zheng Yan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He really didn't expect that the waiter, who used to smile at him, would turn hostile immediately after he was no longer the president. After all, he was a regular customer of this shop. He really had no human touch. He couldn't help but think to himself angrily. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he was stopped by the waiter. Waiter Zheng, you should go back to your own home and cook. No restaurant in Bamboo City is willing to serve you now. The waiter kindly reminded. The news that he had offended a big shot in the divinity had probably spread throughout the entire godly land. Under such circumstances, whoever got involved with him would be in trouble. Therefore, they were naturally afraid. They would rather not receive this old customer than let him affect the business of their store. This situation continued for a few days. Not only the restaurants were not willing to accept him, but almost all the shops were not willing to see him. He sent people to buy things, but no one dared to sell them, afraid that his shop would be implicated by him. After knowing this situation, his heart went cold. In just a few days, he had tasted the fickleness of human nature. Although he had long known that the divine world was a terrifying place, his luck had always been good for many years. Therefore, he had never thought that such a situation would happen to him, which made him feel a little disheartened. That night, Lung Ruoxue and the demon, who felt that the time was right, came to visit personally. This time, there were only the two of them. In the living room of the Zheng Manor, Lung Ruoxue sat on a chair and looked at the haggard and exhausted Zheng Yan. She smiled and asked, How has President Zheng been these days? I'm no longer the guild master of Ing City's Missions Guild. Don't you know that, miss? Zheng Yan said weakly. The events of the past few days had dealt him a huge blow. Of course I know. Everything about you is within my control. I also know why you were replaced. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. How did you know? Could it be that you? Zheng Yan was shocked and his face was full of disbelief. Although he had once doubted the woman in front of him, he did not believe that she had such great power. One should know that even the direct descendant of the Qi family could not do such a thing, but this woman in front of him had done it. This made him deeply afraid because he knew that this was what the woman in front of him had said. She was not satisfied with his sincerity, so she had sent him from heaven to hell. How could there be such a terrifying woman? Have you thought it through, President Zeng? That's right, it was me who ordered it. However, this is only a small punishment for you. If I really wanted to kill you, it would be easier than stepping on an ant. Do you believe me? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. The smile on her face grew even more radiant. Actually, this was naturally the result of Godfather's orders. Chapter 1292. The Fickleness of Human Relationships 3. I didn't expect young lady to have such strength. It's all this Tsung's fault for being blind. I don't know if it's too late for this Tsung to repent now? Zeng Yan asked expectantly. He was not a fool. In fact, he was a very smart person who could judge the situation. After hearing the other party's words, he also knew the purpose of the other party's visit. The other party did not want to kill him. Otherwise, he would not have come here in the middle of the night. That will depend on what President Tseng does. If I can let you die, I can naturally let you live. I can even let you sit in a higher position and have greater power. Therefore, everything depends on President Tseng's own choice. I won't force you, but I have to say the ugly words first. I don't lack your little compensation. So if you can't satisfy me, then your days from now on will be like this. Lung Ruoxue laughed. After he finished speaking, he stood up and continued. President Zeng, I'll give you 3 days to think it over. You know what I want. Let's go, you demon. Thanks. When Zeng Yan saw that the other party was about to leave, he hurriedly stood in front of the two of them. Miss, please wait. I don't have to think about it anymore. No matter what you want me to do, I'll agree to it. I really don't want to live like this anymore. I'll go crazy, Zeng Yan said with a long face. In fact, he had no choice but to agree. After experiencing the past few days of suffering, he needed power and status more than ever. He didn't want to take other people's opinions anymore, or else he would rather die. Chapter 1293. Cannon Fodder 1. Isn't that normal? If it's not related to her, who would come here? Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly and said matter-of-factly, Miss, are there any people who have tender feelings for women among these people? What if we sell the mother and daughter to them, and they become soft-hearted and can't bear to torture them? Wouldn't that be a waste of our efforts? Fodder said, a little worried. See for yourself. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she spoke. With that, she passed Fodder a name list. On it was a detailed record of the people who had come to attend the auction, as well as their history with the mother and daughter. Fodder was dumbfounded after reading the list. He didn't know what to say, because everyone on the list was inextricably linked to the mother and daughter of the Second League. There were many women on the list, and women's jealousy and hatred towards women had never been justified. Miss, Zeng Yan is indeed the president of the Mission Guild. This is the first time I've seen such a detailed list. Fodder said, speechless. Are you at ease now? Lung Ruoxue laughed. It was undeniable that Zeng Yan was a rather smart person. Previously, he had asked her to take a look at the list, but she had actually not looked at it. After all, if one were to use someone, one should not doubt them. If she had to do such a small thing personally, she would be exhausted to death. After that, Zeng Yan sent someone to send over a more detailed record, and what Zeng Yan did was exactly what she wanted. I wonder who will bid for the mother and daughter. Fodder's face was full of anticipation. You'll know when the time comes. Lung Ruoxue smiled mysteriously. The auction this time around was very different from the rest. Well, then I'll wait and see. If the person who bid for them doesn't satisfy me, I'll buy them. Fodder said with a smirk. Don't worry, we will be satisfied. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. With the start of the auction, Zeng Yan had specially sent the most eloquent person in their mission guild to preside over the auction. The host stood on the stage and looked at the guests below the stage and in the private rooms. He felt extremely uneasy and afraid. Why were these people staring at him like tigers? He wasn't their prey, so they didn't have to stare at him like that. He was really scared. In fact, he was overthinking it. The person was not staring at him, but the extremely embarrassed mother and daughter behind him. Why aren't you starting? Hurry up and start. Don't dawdle, our time is precious. Seeing the host's obviously unnatural expression, someone in the audience couldn't help but shout, "Ma, well, start immediately." The host stammered, "Woo, these people are all like wolves and tigers. What a big pair." He sneaked a glance at the private room upstairs, but unfortunately, he was ignored by the president. Zheng Yan was currently sitting in the private room next to Lung Ruoxiu's. He was looking at the main hall through the crystal glass window of the private room. However, he could only choose to ignore his subordinate's pleading gaze. He couldn't possibly head down and personally host the auction, right? The host of this auction had also been carefully selected by him, but he didn't expect that he would be so useless. AI. He could not help but sigh. After a long while, the host saw that there was no way to ask for help, so he had to force himself to start the opening speech. However, he was interrupted by the people sitting below the stage. "Thanks, cut the crap. It's not like we've never been to an auction before. You can just start the auction." Someone shouted impatiently. Alright then. The mother and daughter behind me will be sold as a package. The starting price will be 1 piece of low-grade crystal. Whoever offers the highest price will get it. You can start bidding now." The host wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said speechlessly, "Sigh." He could be considered as someone who had seen a lot and had seen many big scenes. However, this was the first time he had seen someone who was so eager to bid. As the depressed MC's voice fell, the fierce bidding began. 2 pieces. 3 pieces. 5. The crowd below the stage reported their prices one by one. It was unknown if they had a tacit understanding between them. Or was it because of some other reason? All of them had bid 1 lower-grade crystal more than the previous bidder, and no one in the box had opened their mouth to bid yet. Seeing this situation, the host was extremely depressed. If they kept shooting like this, they didn't know if they could sell the mother and daughter today. So, please don't let it fall into your hands. However, he was even more afraid that the mother and daughter would die in his hands. The bidding price rose little by little. After an hour, it finally rose to 1,000 low-grade crystal stones. When the host saw this, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the mother and daughter were finally sold for a good price. Although the price was still astonishingly low, and he had never sold them at such a low price before. It was already very good that someone wanted the mother and daughter, who looked like they were on the verge of death. At the same time, in Lung Ruoxia's and the others' private room, Feng De looked at the lively bidding scene below and felt depressed. The price of this mother and daughter was too low. It hadn't even broken 10,000 low-grade crystal stones. Oh, it was already more than 2,000 yuan, and it seemed impossible to exceed 10,000 yuan. Fortunately, he hadn't given them any food these days. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of money. Based on the current situation, this mother and daughter won't be able to sell for a good price. Feng decide. It's okay. I got it for free anyway. A little bit is a little bit. Lung Ruoxia was very open-minded. After all, she did not expect to earn money from this mother and daughter. The reason she sold them was just to give them a taste of their own medicine. Hee, that's true. Feng De said with a smile. Half a day had passed, and the price was still slowly rising. At this time, the guests in the private rooms also began to bid. Hee. The guests in the private rooms were indeed different. Just look at him, he's so generous. Feng De said with a smile. Big move. When was adding 100 pieces of low-grade crystal stones considered a big deal? How come I didn't know about it? Lin Yuan, who was sitting next to him, had a question mark on his face. Compared to the people below, it's not considered big? Feng De said confidently. Chapter 1294, Cannon Fodder 2. Watch me. Lin Yuan smiled mysteriously. Then he shouted through the voice transmission device. 50,000 low-grade crystal stones. If you can't afford it, then go home and hug your wives. Don't embarrass yourself here. Lin Yuan's provocative words immediately aroused the anger of the people in the opposite room. In an instant, a man roared back. Fuck, who said I can't afford it? I just don't think these two things are worth that much money. 100,000 low-grade crystal stones. Is there anyone else who can bid higher than me? If you don't, these two slaves will be mine. After the person in the opposite room made his bid, he even took on the responsibility of the host. The host was speechless, but he did not express any opinions. I'll pay 200,000. Lin Yuan continued to shout. Fuck. You dare to snatch my man. I'll pay 500,000. The person in the opposite room said, unwilling to be outdone. I'm talking about 200,000 high-grade crystals. Lin Yuan said with a smile. Mine are also high-grade Jingshi. The person in the opposite room suppressed his anger and shouted. That's good. Are there any more bids? The one with the highest price will get it. Lin Yuan also pretended to be a host and asked through the voice transmission device. I'll pay 600,000. At this moment, a woman's voice rang out from the crowd. When the man in the opposite room heard that someone was snatching the goods he was about to get, he was instantly furious. Fuck, what's the point of you taking down two women? Go home and serve your man, don't get involved with us here. What's wrong with women? Don't look down on women, I'm going to buy them both. I'm not short of money, I can afford any amount of money. If you have the ability, you can also pay. If you can't afford it, then don't even think about these two. The woman sneered. Fuck. I'm going to waste my time with you today. I'll pay 1 million high-grade crystal stones. The man in the opposite room was furious and immediately raised the price to 1 million. As soon as he placed this price, many people gave up bidding. After all, no one was stupid. Not many people would pay such a high price for two slaves, because they were not worthy. At this moment, the only people who were willing to bid were the woman and the man in the room opposite Lung Ruoxue, and the others. The price of the two kept alternating and soon reached 2 million, but this price was still not the final price. Please read on /MYBOXN0VEL. When the host saw this, he was extremely happy. If the mother and daughter could be sold for a good price, his reward this month would not be small. Lin Yuan, who had caused this, was also extremely pleased with himself. Well, see, this is what I call truly generous. Lin Yuan said with a smile. Yes, you're the best. We can finally make a profit this time. Fodder said with a look of admiration. Lin Yuan smiled foolishly. The feeling of being a shill was not bad. In the end, the mother and daughter from the second league were bought by the woman who had participated in the bidding for nearly 50 million high-grade crystal stones. After receiving the money, Lung Ruoxue and the rest swaggered back to the inn. Fodder and the others' eyes lit up as they looked at the sparkling top-grade crystals on the table. It was as if they wanted to swallow the crystals whole. Can't you guys be a little more promising? It's not like you've never seen top-grade crystals before, so why are you drooling over high-grade crystals? Lung Ruoxue looked at their lecherous expressions and laughed. Miss, it's not easy to make money. It's rare to have so many crystal stones in front of us, so you have to let us enjoy this kind of pleasure. Fodder laughed. Then you guys enjoy it. Lung Ruoxue shook her head, speechless. After that, she returned to her room with the demon. The next day, the Qi clan genius suddenly came. Lung Ruoxue sat on a chair in the living room and looked at the silent Qi clan genius. She smiled and said, What brings you here today, young Master Qi? It seemed like this Qi family genius was not present at the auction yesterday. Could it be that they were here to ask for a share of the dividends from the mother and daughter? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. Miss Lung, did you sell the mother and daughter yesterday? The Qi family genius asked after a while. Of course I'm selling it. The auction yesterday was specially set up for the mother and daughter. As long as someone buys it, it will definitely be sold. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Who did you sell it to? The Qi clan genius asked indifferently. Young Master Qi, don't you know? A woman bought them. As for who that woman is, young Master Qi can only go to the Mission Guild to find out. I'm not very sure. Lung Ruoxue rejected the invitation cleanly. Even though she did not know the motive of the Qi family's genius, she knew that it would not be anything good. Miss Lung, I've received news that the Alliance Master and her daughter have died. They were tortured to death by that woman yesterday. The Qi clan genius frowned. Oh, then they're really too much of a pain, dying in just one day. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. When she decided to sell the mother and daughter as slaves, she had already anticipated this outcome. After all, they had offended quite a number of people. From what she knew, the person who bought the mother and daughter yesterday was the daughter of a reclusive family, and had a deep grudge with the mother and daughter. Otherwise, who would pay such a high price? It was not like their brains had gone haywire. AI. Miss Lung, we're in big trouble now. The Qi clan genius sighed. Young Master Qi, if you have something to say, just say it. I don't like to guess. Lung Ruoxue said impatiently. Miss Lung, to be honest, the Ascender Alliance already knows about this matter. The reason why I didn't attend the auction yesterday was because the Qi family knew that this matter was related to me. Therefore, they ordered people to ground me. I sneaked out today. As soon as I received the news this morning, I immediately thought of a way to come and inform you. The genius from Qi family explained. In other words, he wanted Lung Ruoxue to appreciate his kindness. After all, he was willing to tell her these things out of friendship. I don't quite understand what you mean, young Master Qi. Lung Ruoxue played dumb. However, she couldn't help but think, so what if the Ascender Alliance knew? Paper can't cover fire. She didn't intend to hide this matter at all. Moreover, a lot of people were invited to the auction yesterday, so it was normal for some of them to leak the news. Chapter 1295. Cannon Fodder 3. Miss Lung, what I mean is that the Ascender Alliance will come to find trouble with you. So, you have to be careful. Qi family young master took a deep breath. Oh, I understand. Thank you, young Master Qi, for your information. Lung Ruoxue said in a neutral tone. Be careful, I have to leave. The Qi clan genius stood up and left. After the Qi family's genius left, Fengde and the rest looked at Lung Ruoxue and asked in confusion. Miss, what did that guy mean? Was he trying to shirk his responsibility? He was the one who caught the mother and daughter. Humph. Don't even think about it. It's not that he wants to stay out of this matter, but that the Qi family doesn't allow him to participate in it. I'm afraid that the Ascender Alliance and the Qi family have reached some kind of agreement, and we are just their sacrifices. The Ascender Alliance's face and anger need to be avenged by us. Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. After listening to the Qi clan's genius, she was clear about the attitude of the Qi clan and the Ascender Alliance. However, if they wanted to use them as cannon fodder, they would have to ask for her permission first. Miss, what should we do now? It seems that the Ascender Alliance doesn't dare to find trouble with the Quest Guild, and the mysterious woman who bought the mother and daughter yesterday. The Qi family is also afraid, so they can only use us as pushovers. Fengde said angrily. What are you afraid of? Sometimes, even if you're afraid, trouble will still come looking for you. Moreover, we seem to be a little free recently, so we can use the Ascender Alliance to pass the time. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. In fact, she had dared to sell the mother and daughter as slaves because she had naturally thought of this situation. However, what she had not expected was that the Ascender Alliance was not willing to have any conflict with the Qi family. Instead, they had directly targeted her. The Qi family's reaction was obviously to stay out of it. However, it was impossible to stay out of it after getting involved in her affairs. Therefore, the Qi family was destined to pay the price for this. I'm sorry, Shuer, it's all our fault. Lan Ming, who had been sitting silently at the side, spoke up in embarrassment. Don't be silly. This is none of your business. We'll have to encounter some of the Divine Realm's power sooner or later. Right now, it's just that we've brought the time forward. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. But, Lan Ming still wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Lung Ruoxue. Alright, don't think too much. The most important thing now is to increase your strength. Otherwise, you'll be bullied wherever you go. Lung Ruoxue tried to persuade him. Sometimes, Lan Ming just thinks too much. What a sentimental man. I'll go talk to Godfather and First Elder. You guys can do as you please, said Lung Ruoxue. With that, she stood up and went to look for Master Ning and First Elder. When Master Ning and First Elder heard Lung Ruoxue's words, they were so angry that they trembled. Master Ning, in particular, kept cursing. This old bastard, if he dares to touch a single hair on my daughter, I'll never let him off. The master of the Ning family was so angry that he jumped up 3 times and roared. Please read on /myboxn0vl, calm down. We can't just rely on the Qi family's one-sided words to determine what the Ascender Alliance wants. First Elder warned. Isn't that obvious enough? The Ascender Alliance is coming to deal with my good daughter. The master of the Ning family roared with wide eyes. What I mean is, we can't just make assumptions based on hearsay. We're not people without power in the divine realm, so why should we listen to the words of others? I'm asking you to personally send someone to investigate. If it's true, then we won't be polite. The Great Elder explained. Yes, what you said makes sense. I'll send someone to investigate. If it's really that old man who gave the order, don't blame me for falling out with him. The master of the Ning family roared angrily. After that, Master Ning gave some instructions to his subordinate, who then left. 2 days later, news finally came back from the divine realm. The Ascender Alliance had indeed given the order to deal with Lung Ruoxue. However, this order was not given by the General Alliance. It was given by the Alliance Master of the Second Ascender Alliance, who was also the Master of the Second Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master from the Divine Mainland. After receiving this news, Master Ning's anger was slightly reduced. After all, he didn't care about the Second Alliance. However, if it was the old man from the General Alliance, then he would have to go to that old man and talk to him in person. How dare he bully his daughter? Did he really think he didn't exist? Young lady, it seems that the Ascender Alliance really intends to deal with us. I'm so scared. Fodder said with a smile. He said he was afraid, but there was not a single trace of fear on his face. Yup. Let's just stay in this bamboo city and wait for our deaths. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be helpless. Actually, she wanted to go to the Qi clan's god domain in the god world and wait for her death. Unfortunately, she was not strong enough and could not go. So she could only stay here and cause trouble for the Qi clan. However, she had already informed Qi Rui about this. He must have made arrangements to minimize their losses. Miss, why don't we just go to the Second Alliance and wait for our deaths? We'll also take over the Second Alliance's territory. Although the Second Alliance's territory can't compare to the 8 god domains, it's still pretty good on the divine continent. Lin Yuan suggested with an evil smile. I'm too tired. Lung Ruoxue spat out these 2 words softly. This was one of the reasons why she didn't want to directly attack the 2 alliances. As for the other reason, it was naturally because of the Qi family. Didn't Qi clan want to stay out of this? Of course, she couldn't let them have their way. Otherwise, she wouldn't be Lung Ruoxue. Little girl, you're really lazy, but I like it. We just need to stay here. There's no need to travel all the way to the Second Alliance. But isn't the Second Alliance's leader dead? Now that they are like a group of dragons without a leader, can they still care about the orders of the Divine Realm's 2 Ascender Alliances? The Great Elder asked curiously. The 2 alliances will send people here. How can they let those guys be without a leader? The Master of the Ning family said. It's no use sending people. He can't display his true strength in the Divine Mainland. If he meets our girl, I'm afraid he won't be able to return. The Great Elder laughed evilly, as if he could already foresee the other party's tragic state. Yes, we're still here. You want to bully my good daughter? Don't even think about it. Master Ning also said excitedly hee. It seemed like there was more fun coming to his door. Chapter 1296. Cannon Fodder 4. Godfather, you and Grand Elder shouldn't interfere in this matter. We can handle it. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded. Girl, are you trying to take all the food for yourself? This can't do. We old arms and legs also want to move. First Elder immediately objected. Yup. Little Shui, or you have to give me a chance to show off as your father. The master of the Ning family also begged with a bitter face. Godfather, Great Elder, there's no need for you guys to take action for a few insignificant characters. Even if the Divine Realm's Second Alliance's master were to personally come, he would still not be worthy of fighting with you guys. Lung Ruoxue put on a high hat, and the two old men immediately broke into smiles. Hee. The girl's words are also reasonable. Old man Ning, since this is the case, let's not make a move. If they can't deal with it, it won't be too late for us to make a move. The Great Elder said to the master of the Ning family with a smile. All right then. The master of the Ning family unwillingly replied. After a simple discussion on the countermeasures, Lung Ruoxue and the others settled down in the inn with a peace of mind. However, they had been waiting for almost half a month and had yet to see any sign of the Ascender Alliance. This made them feel deeply puzzled. Young miss, the people of the Ascender Alliance are too unprofessional. Haven't the Divine Realm's orders been issued long ago? Why aren't they here yet? The news of US being in Bamboo City has been out for a long time. They should be here by now. In the garden of the house, Fodder kept on complaining to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue furrowed her brows. She was speechless and helpless. These days, her combative subordinates had complained to her almost every day, so much so that her ears had grown calluses. Therefore, when she heard Fodder's complaints again, she could not help but complain about the Ascender Alliance in her heart. These guys' efficiency was really too low. Everything they did was delayed. Fortunately, he was not their master. Otherwise, he would have been angered to death. Just as Lung Ruoxue was thinking about this, she suddenly saw Godfather's subordinate running into the garden with an excited look on his face. He was even shouting nonstop. They're here. They're here. They're here to cause us trouble. When Fodder and the others heard this, their spirits were immediately lifted. They quickly tidied up their clothes and rushed out of the inn. At this time, they were the only ones living in the inn. The other guests and the inn manager had all disappeared after knowing that someone would come here to seek revenge. However, before the inn manager left, he still asked them worriedly who would be responsible for the losses of his inn. After getting their affirmative answer, the manager left reluctantly because their answer was that the losses would be borne by the Ascender Alliance, but they would claim the losses on his behalf. Seeing that Fodder and the rest had disappeared in the blink of an eye, Lung Ruoxue could not help but feel a few black lines sliding down her forehead. Then, she followed her godfather and the rest out of the inn. At this moment, the entrance of the inn was surrounded by people from the Ascender Alliance. Looking at the dense crowd in front of them, Fodder and the others laughed. Please read on /mybox and 0vel. I say, what's the meaning of this? Fodder asked with a smile. There were so many people. It was just what he wanted. Did you sell our Second Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter as slaves? The leader of the Ascender Alliance said. This time, he was under the orders of the Alliance Master of the two alliances in the divinity to seek revenge on these people. He was very clear that this was definitely the best opportunity for him to perform. If he could do things to the satisfaction of the Alliance Master, the Alliance Master might be happy and even let him be the Deputy Alliance Master. One had to know that he had always been thinking about the empty position of Deputy Alliance Leader. Therefore, his attitude towards this matter was extremely positive. Originally, when he came to the Divine Mainland, he wanted the other alliances to help the two alliances. After all, they were all part of the Ascender Alliance. Although this incident had happened to someone from the two alliances, it was not good for everyone's face. So when he confidently sent people to look for the other alliances, they had all rejected him. This made him a little embarrassed and angry. However, even though he was angry, he could not care about the other alliances. Hence, after waiting for a few days, he could only bring his subordinates from the God World and the people from the two alliances to Ing City. They had surrounded the inn where Lung Ruoxue and the others were staying without anyone knowing. Chapter 1297. What a tough cannon fodder. 1. Actually, his so-called no one knows and no one knows were just his assumptions. His every move had long been under the strict surveillance of Lung Ruoxue and the others. Yet he was still so pleased with himself that he thought that his actions were flawless and no one had noticed. So what if I am? We're also following orders from the Qi family's direct line of descent. We're working for him. Fonda laughed evilly and said, humph. Didn't these two forces want to use them as cannon fodder? Good. Then he would drag that Qi clan genius down with him, and see how his Qi clan would stay out of this. Impudent. The Qi family is one of the 8 great divine regions. How could they do such a thing? This is clearly a frame-up. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said loudly. Before he came, the Alliance Master had specifically instructed him that if the other party continued to hold on to the Qi clan, he must exonerate the Qi clan. In short, the Alliance Master had already reached a consensus with the Qi clan, so he must not spoil the Alliance Master's plans. Hee. Look at what you're saying. It's as if you were there at the time. Whether we're talking nonsense or not, that direct descendant of the Qi family knows it clearly. You don't need to cover for him. As a man, if you dare to do it, you must admit it. What kind of ability is it to be a coward? Fonda said with a mocking expression. Who are you calling a coward? The leader of the Ascender Alliance roared in anger after hearing these words. Calm down. I'm not talking about you. Don't take it to heart. Fonda smiled as he looked at the agitated leader of the Ascender Alliance. He was puzzled. He didn't say anything about this fellow. Why was this fellow so agitated? Only women and villains are difficult to raise. The leader of the Ascender Alliance glared at Fonda for a long time before he finally managed to say a complete sentence. Vile person? Are you talking about me? All right. Since you think so highly of me, why should I be polite? Brothers, go, teach this lord a good lesson. Fonda turned his head and said to Lin Yuan and the others with a smile. All right. Lin Yuan and the rest rubbed their fists and wiped their palms, eager to try. There was a trace of excitement on their faces. I wonder if these guys from the Ascender Alliance can take a beating? It would be meaningless if it shattered with a touch. Wait. What do you want to do? I'm not done yet. The leader of the Ascender Alliance quickly stopped them when he saw that the other party was about to start a war. According to his idea, as long as he revealed his identity as an Ascender Alliance, he should be able to deter these guys. But who knew that they didn't take him seriously at all, and even wanted to fight when they didn't get along? AI. What a bunch of uncultured barbarians. He couldn't help but complain in his heart that the other party didn't follow his script. I have to wait until you're done talking? Fonda asked, feeling a little funny. This was the first time he had seen such a person in his life. Didn't they come here to get back their face? Why was he complaining that they had acted too quickly now? You still have to say some more nonsense before you can make a move, hee. It was truly laughable. Of course. I haven't finished my words. All of you better behave yourselves. The Ascender Alliance's leader roared in an overbearing manner. He had not even used the opening speech he had thought of. How could they start fighting? One had to know that in order to come up with those words that could intimidate the other party, he had thought about it for several days and nights. Therefore, he had to say it out loud. Otherwise, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? This was definitely not allowed. Please speak. Fonda was speechless, and he couldn't help but wonder to himself. Why did the Ascender Alliance send an idiot here? He was sure that this guy was definitely not mentally sound. After all, how could a normal person have such thoughts? However, he wanted to hear what else this guy had to say. You're tactful. All of you, listen up. You're so bold, actually daring to sell our second Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master. Do you want to die? Do you know that your actions have infuriated the higher-ups of our Ascender Alliance? Therefore, they have sent me to deal with you. I advise you to surrender obediently. There is no benefit for you to become enemies with our Ascender Alliance. You should surrender. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said in a serious tone. After he finished speaking, he looked at Fonda and the others with a pained expression. Are you done? After a moment of silence, Fonda asked calmly. Now he was even more certain that the guy sent by the Ascender Alliance was definitely mentally unstable. He was a retard. Otherwise, how could a normal person say such words? Please read on /myboxn0vel. I'm done. You should surrender. The leader of the Ascender Alliance urged. He said the opening words that he had been thinking about for several days and nights. He felt much more comfortable in his heart. Moreover, he was very wishful in thinking that as long as he said these words, the other party would definitely surrender obediently. Then isn't it our turn to say it now? Fodder asked. He was worried about the future of the Ascender Alliance. If all the Ascenders in the Ascender Alliance were so stupid, it would not take long for the Ascender Alliance to become a third-rate force. Do you guys have anything else to say? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked in disbelief. He really couldn't understand what these prisoners had to say. Wouldn't it be better to just surrender? How troublesome. You've already said it, so why can't we say anything? Fodder said with a hint of mockery. All right then, speak. Even though you are my prisoners, I still have human rights. The Ascender Alliance's leader's words were shocking. However, Fodder and the others chose to ignore his words. Isn't the alliance master of your two alliances in the divine realm? How did you get sold? Fodder asked curiously. What are you talking about? Our two alliances, leaders are so powerful, how could they be sold? When the Ascender Alliance's leader heard this, he was instantly enraged. How am I talking nonsense? You're the one who said it. Fodder pretended to be confused. Although he knew who the alliance master of the second alliance was, he still had to play dumb to the end. Hee. When did I say that? Don't wrong me. The leader of the Ascender Alliance was extremely angry. If these words were to be spread back to the divine realm, then he could forget about having a good life. It should be known that the alliance master of the second alliance was extremely petty and held grudges. Chapter 1298. What a tough cannon fodder, too. Weren't you the one who said that we sold out the alliance master of the second alliance? Fodder asked. That's right. Isn't that the case? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked in a daze. He didn't quite understand what the other party was saying. But the alliance master of your second alliance is clearly in the divine realm. Even if we wanted to sell it, we wouldn't be able to. Unless you cooperate with us to trick him here, we might still have a chance. How about it? Do you want to cooperate with us? We'll give you a bonus when the time comes. He should be able to sell it for a good price. Fodder said with a serious face. You want to sell our second alliance's alliance master? You really don't want to live anymore. The leader of the Ascender Alliance stammered. It was unknown whether he was angry or scared, but his whole body was trembling. Even if I wanted to sell it, I would need your cooperation. This business is very cost-effective, and you'll definitely get a lot of dividends. Fodder reminded. What do you want me to cooperate with? The leader of the Ascender Alliance finally found his voice and couldn't help but roar. He cursed in his heart. These people were really too bad. It was fine if they wanted to sell it, but why did they have to drag him down with them? One had to know that many of the people he had brought with him were from the immortal realm. If anyone were to leak the news, the Alliance Master would definitely not let him off. This group of bad guys. Of course it's to help us trick the two alliances' leader into coming here. He'll definitely be able to sell it for a good price. Fodder said with a smile. You don't even think about it. I won't cooperate with you in doing such a thing. The Ascender Alliance's leader's mind finally cleared up, and he rejected decisively. Previously, he was a little scared silly, so he did not directly refuse. My fiery heart is on your side, so you must believe me. You're really not going to cooperate? Fodder squinted his eyes and asked in an unfriendly tone. I'm determined not to cooperate. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said with a firm will. That's good. Since that's the case, let's not waste any more time and start the war. Fodder said coldly. You'll regret this. Our Ascender Alliance is not to be trifled with. The leader of the Ascender Alliance threatened. Likewise, we're not to be trifled with. Fodder said with a light smile. Then he gave Lin Yuan and the others a look. The crowd swarmed forward. Although the Ascender Alliance had a large number of people, they had always lived a comfortable life in the territory of the Ascenders. They were used to it and had not seen these fierce opponents for a long time. Therefore, they could not adapt to it at all. In just a moment, Nearly one-third of the Ascender Alliance's people had died. As Fonda and the others raised their hands and swung their swords, a life would almost be sent out of this world in an instant. Instant kill. It was an instant kill. Please read on /myboxn0vel. Seeing this situation, the people of the Ascender Alliance were a little afraid. Fuck. How was this a soft persimmon? This was clearly a group of bloodthirsty wolves. They were no match for these people. When they thought of this, many people felt fear and secretly fled when Fonda and the others were not paying attention. Come back. Damn it, all of you come back. No one is allowed to run. When the leader of the Ascender Alliance saw that his subordinates had actually abandoned him, he was furious. However, Fonda and Chengwu were keeping him busy, so he couldn't do anything at the same time. In fact, he wanted to run away, but these two guys didn't give him the chance. It was really too detestable. Now he had seen it clearly. These people were not the so-called cannon fodder at all. Woo. How could there be such hard cannon fodder in the world? Not only would he not be able to bite through it, he might even lose his life. He regretted coming to the godly continent because he might not be able to go back. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. However, it was useless for him to regret it, because Fonda and the others had made up their minds to make him stay. As for those people from the Ascender Alliance who had escaped, they would naturally not have a good end. Hee. At this time, those people had probably been killed by Song Di and the others who were lying in ambush outside the city, and they would not have killed by mistake. After all, they were all dressed in the same clothes. It was impossible not to recognize him, even if he wanted to. After a long while, of the Ascender Alliance's members who were still alive, only the somewhat out-of-line leader was left. Little brat. How about us cannon fodder? Fonda held the dagger in his hand, and the cold light reflected on the face of the Ascender Alliance's leader. He was so scared that he trembled even more. He was afraid that the other party would accidentally scratch his face. Woo. Why did he have to scare him like this? I'm asking you a question. Seeing that the other party didn't respond for a long time, Fonda couldn't help but say impatiently, I. The leader of the Ascender Alliance stammered, unable to say a complete sentence. Fonda, keep the dagger away from him. He'll be scared. Chengwu looked at the leader of the Ascender Alliance, who was as timid as a mouse, and said with a look of disdain, Oh, that's true. Fonda put away the dagger obediently and said to the leader, You can answer me now. Answer you what? The leader of the Ascender Alliance was still trembling. What about us cannon fodder? Fuck. If you're still playing dumb, don't blame me for being impolite. Fonda brandished his dagger and threatened. Arg. Dun. I say. You cannon fodder are the toughest cannon fodder I've ever seen. Sob. Actually, I'm very useless. I'm not even a fart in the two alliances. I can only show off in the godly mainland. So, even if you kill me, the alliance master won't feel bad. The leader said with a sad face, not caring about his image. So you're cannon fodder like us. Fonda laughed. Yes. At first, the alliance master didn't want to send me here because he knew I couldn't do anything. However, those guys in the alliance all found all kinds of excuses, so the alliance master had no choice but to send me here. In order to make me feel at ease, he even hinted to me that if this matter was handled well, he would let me be the deputy alliance master. Sob. Now I've finally thought it through. He was just playing with me. He had no intention of making me the deputy alliance master. I'm just cannon fodder. The leader of the Ascender Alliance immediately took advantage of the situation and continued Fonda's words. Chapter 1299. What a tough cannon fodder 3. Since you can see it so clearly, are you willing to cooperate with us? Fonda asked again. Cooperate with you on what? The leader of the Ascender Alliance did not react for a while and asked in confusion. Of course it's to cooperate with us and bring the leader of the Second League of the Divine Realm here. Didn't I tell you before? Since they're so unkind, why should you be righteous? So, why don't we just go all out and get him here? We'll sell him and give you a share of the profits, how about it? Fonda tempted. Are Are you really going to sell the Alliance Master? The leader of the Ascender Alliance wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and asked carefully, "Do you think I'm joking? We've been tight on cash recently, and he wants to deal with us, so we might as well strike first. Oh, you can also bring your opponents from the two alliances to the Divine Mainland. Then we'll sell them all. In that case, the two alliances will be yours. Even if you want to be the alliance leader, it'll be a piece of cake, let alone a deputy." Fodder reminded him with an evil smile. Let me think." After hearing Fodder's words, the leader of the Ascender Alliance thought about it seriously. He couldn't deny that Fodder's words had moved him, but he didn't dare to do that. He was afraid that the General Alliance would not let him go after knowing about this. After all, such an action was no different from betrayal. You're afraid of the General Union, right? What if I promise you that the General Union won't be angry about this? Seeing his hesitation, Fodder threw out an even bigger bait. He did not believe that this guy would not take the bait. Really? What can you use to guarantee that? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked suspiciously. To be honest, he didn't believe the other party's words at all. If all the higher-ups of the two alliances were sold out, how could the General Alliance not be angry? In this way, how could the General Alliance still have the face to stand in the Divine Realm? "I'll show you something good," Fodder said with a mysterious smile. After he finished speaking, he took out a thin piece of paper from his storage ring and handed it to the leader of the Ascender Alliance. The Ascender Alliance's leader took it and looked at it. His expression suddenly changed because the paper recorded the shameful things that these high-level people had done behind the scenes, including his own. However, compared with the others, his things were obviously like a small house meeting a big house. It was not worth mentioning at all. "How is it? With this thing, you're still afraid that the General Alliance will blame you? It's so easy to find an excuse. You're clearing out the parasites for the Ascender Alliance and returning the Alliance to its pure land." Fodder said it in a grand manner, but the other party took it to heart. "That's right. I want to clear the bugs for the Alliance and return them a piece of pure land. However, I've also done some unspeakable things. If the General Alliance knew about it, they wouldn't let me be the Second Alliance's leader." The leader of the Ascendance Alliance said with a face full of distress. If he had known that there would be such a good opportunity, he would have kept his chastity no matter what. How could he be easily dragged down by them? "That will depend on your ability. We can provide you with evidence of their crimes, but we can't influence the choice of the Alliance Master. So, whether you can become the Alliance Master or not will be up to you," Fodder said helplessly. In fact, what did it have to do with them whether the other party could become the Alliance leader or not? They only wanted to use this guy to lure those people from the Second Alliance over and give him some benefits at the same time. As for whether he could grasp it or not, that was his own problem. However, it was estimated that the Ascender General Alliance would not let such a fool become the Second Alliance's leader. "Yes, I must be the leader of the Second Alliance," the Ascender Alliance's leader said confidently. With this evidence, he could make a good move, and the Second Alliance's master would definitely fall into his hands. After making up his mind, he decided to cooperate with the other party. "What do you want me to do?" the leader of the Ascender Alliance asked. He was no longer so afraid of Fodder and the others, because in his heart, they were already considered allies. Since they were the leader of the Alliance, they would definitely not harm his life. Please read on /myboxn0vel. First of all, of course, you have to suffer some physical pain. However, this is something that cannot be helped. It'll be good for you to return to the two alliances. I hope you can understand. Fodder said courteously. "I understand." The leader of the Ascender Alliance nodded. The people he had brought with him were all dead. It would be unreasonable if he was still alive and kicking. "What should I do after I return to the Second Alliance?" the leader of the Ascension Capital Alliance asked shamelessly, like an obedient child. "When you return, you will naturally tell the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance about this with additional details. Oh right, don't forget to mention the Chi family. Then, find the right time to persuade the two Alliance Masters to come here. You can think of the details yourself." Fodder said irresponsibly. In fact, he felt that he had said enough, but it was a pity that the guy they found was too stupid. He really didn't know if he could trick the people from the Second Alliance. Oh, the leader of the Ascender Alliance nodded. Right, let me ask you, what kind of agreement did your alliance head reach with Qi clan? Fonda suddenly asked. I'm not too sure about that. I'm not the alliance master's confidant. There are many things he won't tell me. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said with a depressed look. Then go back to the Divine Realm and find out about this matter for me. Remember to tell me the next time you come. Fonda ordered. All right, he said. The leader of the Ascender Alliance replied carefully. Let's start now. Fonda said with a smirk. Start what? The Ascender Alliance's leader asked in puzzlement. Of course it's to create a ruse of self-injury. Endure it. After Fonda finished speaking, he took the lead and punched the other party's face. Then Lin Yuan and the others swarmed forward and began to punch and kick the leader. Not long after, the Ascender Alliance's leader's body was a bloody mess, and it was a tragic sight. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she felt a deep sense of sympathy for the half-dead fellow on the ground. However, it was only for a moment. Did you guys kill him? The Great Elder couldn't help but ask after circling the Ascender Alliance's leader, who was lying on the ground. Don't worry. Although this person's strength isn't very high, he's still from the Divine Realm after all. His skin is tough and his flesh is thick, so he won't die so easily. Fonda said with certainty. They had a sense of propriety. Although the injuries on this guy's body looked scary, they were only flesh wounds. That's good. The Great Elder was relieved. After all, this guy was the chess piece they had chosen. It would be a pity if he died before they even used him. After the ruse of self-injury was completed, Fonda followed his original plan, and threw the leader of the Ascender Alliance at the only way to the Second Alliance. There were many people on the road, so the bloodied guy would soon be saved. All they had to do was wait. For a period of time after that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest continued to live in Bamboo City, peacefully living their cannon fodder dreams. Unfortunately, their opponents were too useless. Thus, even though they only came once, they were eaten up by the cannon fodder. In the garden of the house, Fonda and the others were so bored that they were in a daze. Some of them even counted the days with their fingers. Captain, that guy has been back for almost a month, right? Why is there no movement? Did their alliance master kill them? Someone couldn't help but ask in a low voice. I don't think so, but according to Brother Ning, his injuries aren't light and he's still recuperating in the second league. He's been eating and drinking well every day, so he's probably too happy to even think about home. Fonda said with an evil smile. The big brother Ning he was talking about was naturally one of the subordinates of the Ning family's master. He was also in charge of sending messages to the divine world. Looks like we've fulfilled his wish. If I had known earlier, I would have beaten him up harder. Lin Yuan chuckled. Come on. If you beat him a little harder, he would really be dead. 2 drops of cold sweat dripped from Feng Die's forehead as he thought to himself. Lin Yuan is even more ruthless than me. Who's dead? Lung Ruoxue and the demon walked into the garden, and happened to hear the last sentence. She could not help but ask curiously. Miss, we are talking about the leader of the Ascender Alliance. Fonda quickly explained. Oh, let me tell you some good news. They've arrived at the godly mainland, and the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance is personally leading them. Lung Ruoxue had just heard the news from her godfather, and immediately came to inform her subordinates, so that they could make preparations. In fact, they should have been prepared long ago. It was just that they had been waiting for a long time, so they were all bored. Really? Ha ha ha. That's great. Those bastards are finally here, humph. How dare they make me wait for so long? I won't let them go. But miss, do you really plan to sell them all? The excited Fonda couldn't help but ask. When the miss had told them about this, his first reaction was that the miss was in need of money, and she was in extreme need of money. Otherwise, why would he think of selling everyone from the 2 alliances? They weren't the 2 alliances of the godly continent. However, he saw that his young miss' expression was very serious, so he could only carry out her words. What's wrong? Are you scared? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. Why would I be afraid? I'm just curious, miss. Are you short of money? Fonda finally asked what he was thinking. He couldn't help it. Who said I can only sell them if I'm short of money? Lung Ruoxua asked with a smile. If you don't lack money, why would you want to sell people to the divine realm? Fonda was very puzzled. The Ascender Alliance's power was second only to the 8 great divine regions. To the current them, it was definitely a colossus-like existence. Once they sold out the higher-ups of the 2 alliances, the Ascender Alliance of the divine realm would most likely view them as their mortal enemy. At that time, the 5 alliances would come together, and wouldn't they be entangled tightly? Then, how would they be able to go out and travel? Since they have the guts to scheme against me, they naturally have to bear the consequences. If they want us to be cannon fodder, how can they not pay a price? Moreover, you can be at ease. Even if we sell out the higher-ups of the 2 alliances, the Ascender's General Alliance won't do anything to us. This is because Godfather has already reached an agreement with them, and the Great Elder. Lung Ruoxua said calmly. Oh, hee. With that, I can play as much as I want. Fonda said with a smirk. Chapter 1300. An Unexpected Gain 1. It's fine to play. However, to be able to become the leader of the Divine Realm's Ascender Alliance's 2 alliances, he's definitely not an ordinary person. Thus you all must be careful. Lung Ruoxua reminded. Even though she trusted her subordinate's abilities, she still had to remind him of what she needed to. Hee. Don't worry, miss, we will be careful. Fonda promised with a smile. In the next few days, Fonda and the rest gathered together and discussed something in a sneaky manner. When they saw Lung Ruoxua and Master Ning, they deliberately avoided them and acted mysteriously. Seeing the actions of Fonda and the others, the master of the Ning family was puzzled and couldn't help but ask, Shui, or what are those kids doing? You've made it so mysterious. He's probably planning on how to scheme against the 2 alliances, Master. Godfather, let them worry about these small things. We don't need to care about them. Lung Ruoxua laughed. She had always adopted a free-range policy towards her subordinates. As long as they took care of themselves, that was enough. This was also the only request she had for her subordinates. Hee, these kids are all ruthless. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance is going to be in big trouble. The First Elder chuckled. Of course we can't be soft-hearted towards our enemies. Otherwise, we'll be the ones to suffer. Lung Ruoxua laughed. That's true. Little girl, should we also do some preparation work? The Great Elder asked again. No need, Great Elder and Godfather will just watch the show. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Are you letting us watch a good show again? Master Ning's face darkened as he spoke unhappily. Godfather, there's no need to use an ox's blade to kill a chicken. It's enough for us to deal with these small characters. You're all people with high positions and authority. If you were to deal with these small fries like the Ascender Alliance's chief, you'll become a laughingstock. Lung Ruoxua said with an expression that said, I'm doing this for your own good. All right then. The master of the Ning family and the Great Elder replied helplessly, but they were a little depressed in their hearts. They were actually being despised because of their status. What the hell was this? However, in the entire immortal realm, it was likely that only this girl would not allow them to appear because of their identities. If it were anyone else, they would have long clung onto someone's thigh, regardless of who they were. 3 days later, Lung Ruoxua and the others had been waiting for the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance for a long time. He finally brought a large group of people to Ing City. However, they did not surround the inn like the leader who had gone off the rails earlier. Instead, they found a house and started to renovate it. The reason why they were looking for private residences was mainly because all the inns in the city had closed their doors and refused to have any customers. Although they didn't know why, they had rushed all the way here from the Divine Realm. They had to take a rest first. Who asked their opponent to be so cunning? Please read on /myboxn0vel. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua and the rest had received news that the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance had entered the city. However, She did not expect the alliance master of the second alliance to be a woman as well. It was just that she was much older than the one on the divine continent. Furthermore, this alliance master of the second alliance was also surrounded by beautiful men. After hearing this news, she was very speechless. She couldn't help but think to herself, could this be the legendary, a crooked stick will have a crooked shadow? As the leaders of the two alliances, they could definitely be considered to be of the same lineage. Even their preferences were the same. However, it was said that the men beside the leaders of the two alliances followed her willingly, and not by force. After Fodder and the others knew that the alliance master of the second alliance had entered the city, they had borrowed Ling from her and never returned. However, Lung Ruoxua knew that they were up to no good. With Ling by their side, she naturally didn't have to worry about their safety. Fodder and the rest went out in the morning, and by the time they returned, it was already night time. Seeing the joy on their faces, Lung Ruoxua did not ask any further. After they finished eating, she pulled the evildoer along and went back to her room. Looking at Lung Ruoxua's back view, Fodder and the rest were dumbfounded. "Miss, why don't you ask us what we've been up to all day?" Lin Yuan asked, puzzled. "You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Don't guess what the young lady is thinking." Fodder said helplessly, sigh. Their miss had never played by the rules. The more they hoped for her to ask, the more she did not ask. "Are we still going tomorrow?" Lin Yuan asked carefully. "Of course I'm going. If I don't go, all my previous efforts will be in vain," Fodder said. To be honest, he hadn't had enough after playing for a day. Therefore, he would continue to go there tomorrow until he had had enough fun. The next day, Fodder and the others went out early again. The master of the Ning family looked at the empty courtyard and said with some discomfort, "Girl, are you really not curious about what those brats are doing?" It was originally quite lively with so many people, but these little brats had not been home for the past 2 days, and he did not see them play around, so he was really not used to it. "Godfather, what could they have done? It's nothing more than causing trouble at the residence of the Second Alliance. They've done this a lot in the past." Lung Ruoxua understood. She didn't need to guess or Fodder and the others to tell her. She could figure it out. Then the Second Alliance's alliance master, and the others are in trouble. The master of the Ning family said sympathetically. He had a deep understanding of how good those brats were at pranking people, so he really sympathized with that old woman from the Second Alliance. He was already so old. What would he do if he got scared again? At this time, the residence of the Second Alliance was just as the master of the Ning family and the others had thought. It was in deep water and fire, and the most unfortunate one was the master of the Second Alliance. Although this alliance master of the Second Alliance had many beautiful men by her side, this was not because she was a lecherous person, but because of her cultivation needs. The cultivation method she cultivated was a kind of top-grade dual cultivation method. It had to be cultivated by both a man and a woman at the same time. Moreover, both men and women would obtain endless benefits. Thus, this cultivation method was very famous in the divine realm. However, this cultivation method had very high requirements on the cultivator's body, and there were very few people who could cultivate it. And this alliance master of the Second Alliance just happened to be able to cultivate it. Thus, many men willingly followed her in order to obtain a top-grade cultivation method. Dual cultivation was allowed in the divine realm. However, there were many dual cultivation techniques that couldn't be acknowledged by others. This was because many dual cultivation techniques were only beneficial to one party, while the other party was completely in the role of contributing. In the end, they might even die an unnatural death. Thus, many deities didn't like dual cultivation with others, for fear of falling into the other party's trap. Chapter 1301. An unexpected gain, too. A dual cultivation technique that could benefit both sides would naturally be highly respected by everyone. However, this kind of technique had extremely high requirements for the woman, and very few women could meet the requirements. Thus, there were not many gods who could dual cultivate in the divine world. The alliance master of the two alliances in the divine realm was able to cultivate a top-grade dual cultivation technique. In addition to her beauty, she naturally had many admirers in the divine realm. The man who followed her not only admired her, but also wanted to improve his strength. However, after the two alliances' leaders arrived at the divine mainland, they were cultivating as usual. Who knew that at a critical moment in their cultivation, they would be interrupted by the noise in the courtyard. As a result, they accidentally suffered from chi deviation and lost a lot of vitality. They also aged by more than 10 years in an instant. The alliance master of the second alliance looked to be in his early 20s, but after an accident in his cultivation, he looked almost 50 years old. His smooth and beautiful face was now wrinkled. Seeing his current appearance, the alliance master of the second alliance almost broke down. After all, which woman didn't care about her appearance? Luxiang, get the hell in here. The alliance master of the second alliance laid on the bed weakly and shouted at the top of his lungs. Alliance master, I'm here. In the courtyard, Luxiang heard the alliance master's call and immediately pushed open the door and ran in. He was also one of the president's men, but he was not the one cultivating with the president tonight, so he was responsible for the security of the courtyard. Now that he heard the president call him, he naturally thought that the president was dissatisfied and wanted to. He stepped into the room excitedly and saw the old woman with a wrinkled face on the bed. His heart trembled in fear, thinking that he had entered the wrong room. Not only that, but there was a man of similar age lying next to the old woman. The man was obviously unconscious. Seeing this situation, he didn't know what to do. What was going on? This is the alliance master's room, right? Then who were the two people on the bed? At this moment, he didn't dare to guess that the woman was the president, because he knew very well that the president was most concerned about her devastatingly beautiful face. Luxiang, where the hell have you been? They actually caused such a huge commotion outside. The alliance master of the second alliance said angrily, his eyes almost spitting fire. Alliance? Alliance master? You're the alliance master? When Luxiang heard the familiar voice, he asked in disbelief. What's going on? What happened? How did the alliance master become like this? He could not believe his eyes. What's wrong? You can't recognize me either? Wasn't it all your doing? How did you keep watch? The alliance master of the second alliance shouted at the top of her lungs without a care for her image. She was about to die from anger. She had just arrived at the divine mainland, and her plan had not even started yet. But she had already suffered from chi deviation and suffered quite a lot of internal injuries. What the hell was going on? Alliance master, I'm innocent. This is none of my business. I don't know why there are so many rats in the yard, making us so chaotic. Please forgive me, alliance master. Luxiang complained tearfully with snot and tears. Forgive? You've caused us to be like this? You still want me to forgive you? Men. The alliance master of the second alliance shouted towards the door, but she fainted right after. Luxiang's heart was beating like thunder when he saw this scene. He was stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. He strode to the door and stopped the guard who was about to enter. Please read on /myboxn0vel. Housekeeper Lu, the alliance master is calling us. The guard reminded. I know, but the alliance master has already fainted, so I'm afraid I won't be able to see you. Luxiang heaved a sigh of relief. In the entire second alliance, he was not afraid of anyone other than the alliance master. Therefore, he was sure that the guards would not dare to barge in after hearing his words. Why is the alliance master unconscious? The guard was puzzled. No wonder he heard something wrong with the alliance master's voice. The alliance master made a mistake in her cultivation and fell into chi deviation. Moreover, the alliance master has placed all the blame on us. So, she called you in to reprimand you. Unfortunately, she suddenly fainted. Luxiang explained. In fact, he knew that the president only wanted to punish him. However, this was not his own problem, so there was no way he would be the scapegoat. Then what should he do? Could it be that we disturbed the alliance master when we were catching the mouse, so she went into chi deviation? One of the guards asked in fear. The alliance master had always been fickle in emotions. If he really wanted to punish them, None of them would have a good time. Yes, you're right. The noise just now disturbed the president, so she went crazy. Fortunately, the president is in a coma now. Otherwise, if she wanted to hold us responsible, none of us would be able to escape. Lu Xiang said very seriously. Housekeeper Lu, what should we do? You have to think of a good way to save us. The guard said with a face full of fear. I can't even save myself. How can I save you? AI. Lu Xiang said gloomily. He then continued. However, the Alliance Master is unconscious now, so we still have some time to think of a solution. What should we do if the Alliance Master investigates this? Housekeeper Lu is right. We're all depending on you. Well, do whatever you say. The guard quickly said. That's good. Let me think about it before telling you. You have to guard this place well. Other than me, don't allow anyone to enter or leave, so as not to disturb the president's rest. After giving his orders, Lu Xiang left the courtyard of the Second Alliance Master and returned to his room. As soon as he stepped into the room, he immediately noticed a few people sitting in the room, clearly waiting for him. Who are you? How did you get in? Lu Xiang said warily. These people were all weaker than him, but for some reason, his intuition told him that these people were not to be trifled with. Of course we walked in. As for who we are, you'll find out very soon. Fonda, who was sitting on a chair and drinking tea, said with a smile. The people from the Second Alliance really knew how to enjoy themselves. It was such a waste to live in such a dilapidated courtyard and drink such good tea. Chapter 1302, An Unexpected Gain 3. Then what is your purpose in coming here? Seeing that he couldn't find out the identity of these people, Lu Xiang could only ask in a roundabout way. We heard that the Second Alliance's leader is an absolute beauty, so we came here to admire her. Fonda chuckled. Hearing Fonda's words, Lu Xiang was speechless. What did he mean by, I heard the president of the Second Alliance is a beauty, so I came to admire her? Their Alliance Master wasn't a flower? How to appreciate it? Moreover, the Alliance Master probably didn't want outsiders to see him in his current state, so these people's wishful thinking might have been wrong. However, he didn't want to offend someone who could come and go as he pleased in their residence without anyone knowing. It's not convenient for our Alliance Master to meet with guests now, so I'm afraid you've all come in vain. After a moment of silence, Lu Xiang said, Oh, it's not convenient to meet guests because of qi deviation, and suddenly became an old lady? Fonda asked with an evil smile. How did you know? Lu Xiang was shocked. These people were too powerful, weren't they? He found out about something that had just happened so quickly. Wasn't that what Steward Lu said just now? We just happened to hear it. Fonda chuckled. This was truly an unexpected surprise. They didn't expect that the rats they had used all kinds of means to get would cause the two Alliance Masters to become demonic before they could even complete their mission. Was this considered a lucky hit? Now the two alliances' leaders can't do anything, right? AI. People. He just had to keep a low profile, otherwise he would be punished by the heavens. Then what do you want? Lu Xiang's face was filled with vigilance. He still didn't know the other party's intention for coming, but these people had sneakily come to his door, so it couldn't be anything good. Housekeeper Lu, how about we sell you the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance? Fonda looked at Lu Xiang's cautious face and couldn't help but ask with a smile. From the information given to them by the leader, this Lu Xiang should be one of the people who was more interested in the Second Alliance's master. However, the Second Alliance's master didn't like him very much. If they sold the Second Alliance's master to this person, their relationship would naturally switch, hee. With this man's petty character, who knew how he would torture the once high-spirited leader of the Second Alliance. Sell it to me? Who do you think you are? Do you think you can just sell off the Second Alliance's leader as you please? Lu Xiang said in a speechless manner. If I say it can be sold, then it can be sold. It all depends on whether you dare to buy it or not. However, now that the Second Alliance's master is so old, I don't think you'll be interested in her anymore. Just pretend I didn't mention it, Fonda said with a regretful look. Housekeeper Lu, by the way, I'd like to remind you that your negligence of duty has caused your president to go berserk. If she wakes up, I'm afraid she won't let you off. So you better know your place. Feng De reminded. After he finished speaking, he gave Lin Yuan and the others a look. Everyone stood up and prepared to leave. Just as he reached the door, he was stopped by Lu Xiang. Wait. Was what you said just now true? How confident are you? The Alliance Master is quite snobbish, so it won't be easy for you to get her. Besides, I'm also afraid that he'll be in trouble. Lu Xiang asked nervously. In fact, Feng De's words had moved him. After all, he had only followed the president for a higher cultivation base. However, there were too many men around the president. Sometimes, he would not have a chance to cultivate for months. This was completely different from what he had initially imagined. Therefore, over time, he had some other thoughts in his heart. Now, after Feng De's temptation, these thoughts had completely emerged, but he was still a little afraid. If you're afraid of this and that, then you can just wait for death. You know your president's personality better than anyone else. Do you think she'll let you go? Since that's the case, why don't you strike first? Feng De continued to tempt him. After much observation, he felt that it was the most suitable to sell the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance to this man. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to him. However, this Lu Xiang was obviously too timid. Even at this time, he was still so afraid of the wolves in front and the tigers behind. He really wasn't someone who could accomplish great things. Please read on /MYBOXN0VEL. Lu Xiang lowered his head and pondered for a long while. Finally, he raised his head and said with a desperate look, "Good. I'm going all out, but don't ask for too much. I don't have much money." "Aha. Don't worry. It's definitely a price you can afford," Feng De said calmly, but he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. This guy was quite interesting. The Alliance Masters of the two alliances weren't even in their hands yet. He was just afraid that they would sell them for too much, and he wouldn't be able to afford them. Why didn't he think of taking advantage of the Second Alliance's master's current weak state to abduct that woman? However, it was fortunate that Lu Xiang did not think of this. Otherwise, wouldn't they have earned less? When do you plan to make your move? Lu Xiang asked impatiently. He was very afraid that the Alliance Master would punish him when he woke up, so he naturally hoped that these people would act quickly. What's the hurry? We have to make some preparations. Otherwise, people will be suspicious if both of you suddenly go missing. Feng De said. Well, that's true. I'll wait for your good news. Lu Xiang hurriedly said. Okay, but there are some things that we need you to cooperate with us. Feng De said. No problem, he said. Lu Xiang nodded in agreement. After the two sides reached a temporary agreement, Feng De brought his men back to the inn. On the way back, Lin Yuan asked in confusion, Captain, why don't we get the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance out now? In any case, she's already unconscious, and with her chi deviation, she probably won't have the mood to command her subordinates, There's no hurry. We have to make Lu Xiang suffer a little. Otherwise, how could he be so good to that old woman? Feng De said with a smirk. To put it bluntly, he was the one who didn't trust that cowardly fence-sitter Lu Xiang. He didn't even trust the leader of the Second Ascender Alliance. Captain, you're getting more and more naughty, Lin Yuan said with a face full of admiration. It's a must, Feng De said a little arrogantly, and the group returned to the inn while talking and laughing. After he returned, Feng De took the initiative to look for Lung Ruoxue and the others, and told them about his plan. No one expressed any opinions on this. Miss, why aren't you guys saying anything? In the living room, looking at the silent crowd, Feng De felt a little uncertain. No one said anything, just looking at him. What was the meaning of this? Can you not be so scary? What did we say? Didn't you already plan everything? Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. If you have any different opinions, you can voice them out. Feng De was a little speechless. Did these people want to be hands-off managers? How could this be? We have no objections. Well, do it according to your idea, Master Ning said, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. How did my good daughter train these subordinates? Each one of them had so many bad ideas, and when they pranked people, it was even more frightening. Why were there not many of their Ning family's subordinates who were so clever? He had never thought that the Ning family's guards were too rigid, but now he deeply thought so. All right then. I'll send someone to monitor their every move. Fodder said helplessly. In the following days, the alliance master of the second alliance woke up, and Lu Xiang naturally became the first victim. She locked him up and ordered people to punish him. Lu Xiang, who was locked up in the room, was covered in wounds. His heart was filled with hatred for the alliance master of the second alliance. Now his only hope was for Fodder and the others to come quickly and save him. That way, he would be able to escape and the alliance master would fall into his hands. When that time came, he would torture her well, and he would definitely pay back the humiliation he had suffered in the past few days. However, after waiting for a few days, the person he had been waiting for did not come to save him. Instead, the alliance master kept sending people to teach him a lesson, which gradually deepened his hatred for the alliance master. A few days later, when Lu Xiang woke up, he found himself in a different place, and he was lying on a bed. Where was this place? Lu Xiang was puzzled. He could even feel that all his injuries had healed. Who had saved him? Just as he was thinking about it, Fodder and the others walked in. They looked at his confused face and said, "You're awake? You saved me." After seeing Fodder, Lu Xiang asked despite knowing the answer. "Who else do you think it is?" Fodder asked with a smile. He knew that this guy had suffered a lot in the past few days. Although the chief of the second league was recuperating, he did not forget to send people to torture him. Because that woman had blamed Lu Xiang for his qi deviation. So Lu Xiang had become the scapegoat of those rats. This was something that could not be helped. As the alliance master, he couldn't possibly seek revenge from those rats. That would be so embarrassing. "Thank you for saving me," Lu Xiang said gratefully. Then he could not help but ask, "When will your plan be implemented? Don't you still need my cooperation? However, I'm now a sinner of the two alliances. I'm afraid I can't help you much. It's okay, we have our own arrangements," Fodder said nonchalantly. In fact, he did not expect this guy to be of any help. He just wanted to drive a deeper wedge between them. Therefore, he did not execute their plan immediately. Now that he had achieved his goal, Lu Xiang's last use was to buy the second league's leader, who had lost his mind. That's good. If you want to know more about the alliance master, I can still provide you with some information, Lu Xiang said after some thought. He knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since these people had saved them and made an agreement with him, he had to pay them something in return. Otherwise, these people would not trust him. It was better for him to say it first than to wait for them to greet him. "There's no hurry. Let's talk about it after you recover from your injuries," Fodder said considerately. Although they had brought Lu Xiang back, they did not give him any good medicine. Therefore, he would need to recuperate for a few days. "All right," he said. Lu Xiang nodded and did not speak. "Have a good rest. We won't disturb you any longer." After Fodder finished speaking, he turned around and left with everyone. 3 days later, Lu Xiang's injuries were almost healed. Looking at the listless Lu Xiang, Fodder chuckled and asked, "Your injuries are basically healed. Why do you still look so listless?" Chapter 1303, Taking the Initiative to Visit 1. Lu Xiang opened his mouth but hesitated. In fact, he was still a little afraid. He was afraid that the Ascender Alliance would seek revenge. After all, he wanted to buy the alliance master of the two alliances of the Divine Realm. Not some random nobody. Lu Xiang. At this point, there's no point in being afraid. Moreover, in the eyes of the two alliances, he was already a dead person. Who would suspect a dead person? However, if you're soft-hearted and can't bear to take revenge on that old woman, then we won't force you, Fodder said in an understanding manner. I want revenge, Lu Xiang said ruthlessly. No man would be able to stand being treated like this. That's more like it. You just need to prepare the money and wait for us to hand the person over to you. You don't have to worry about anything else, Fodder said. Okay, I'll be waiting for your good news then. Lu Xiang nodded. After 2 more days, Leng Ruoxue saw that there was still no movement from the Ascendants Union, so she decided to pay them a visit personally. At the same time, she couldn't help but grumble in her heart. The efficiency of this great power was really low. It had been so long, yet they still hadn't come to cause trouble. Sigh. They had waited so long that they were about to go moldy. In fact, the people from the Second Alliance didn't come not because they didn't want to, but because their leader had suffered from qi deviation and was busy healing his injuries, so he couldn't care less. After making the decision, Leng Ruoxue brought Feng De and the rest, and headed straight to the residence of the 2 alliances. When they arrived at the entrance of the house, Feng De smiled at Leng Ruoxue and said, "Miss, why don't we copy the Second League and surround this house? We only have this many people, and you want to surround this house? Feng De, do you know what it means to be a copycat? If we want to be different from the rest, how can we learn from others?" Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. "That's right. Little brat. We have to do something different." The master of the Ning family agreed. "What's different?" Feng De asked, a little dumbfounded. In his opinion, there were only a few ways to lure the other party out. The first was to break the door open, the second was to make a loud noise, and the third was to sneak in quietly and catch him off guard. However, none of these methods could be considered unique, right? "Take a note and say that we want to meet the Second Alliance's leader," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Pay respects? Miss, we're here to cause trouble." Feng De couldn't help but remind him. He muttered in his heart. "Do you have to be so polite to mess up the place?" He even sent a visiting card. Well, use peaceful means before resorting to force. Since we're the ones who took the initiative, there must be a reason to take action. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Please read on /myboxn0vel.com. Alright then. Feng De had no choice but to take out a piece of paper from his storage ring and write a few words on it as a note. Then he went to knock on the door. He had just knocked a few times when an impatient voice came from inside the door. "Who is it? Why can't you let me sleep in so early in the morning?" Then the door was opened. The guard who opened the door saw Feng De, who was dressed in black and was stunned. He even rubbed his eyes, clearly not fully awake. "Who are you?" After a while, the guard finally sobered up. Looking at the people dressed in black outside the door, his heart trembled because he had a bad feeling in his heart. They came with ill intentions. "We're here to see the Second Alliance's leader. This is our letter of visit." As Feng De spoke, he handed over the thin piece of paper. They were dressed very formally today. Everyone was dressed in black from head to toe, just to show that they were from the same place. When he saw the guard's dumbfounded expression, he knew that the other party was shocked. When the guard heard Feng De's words, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and took the piece of paper. His heart was filled with fear. This was the first time he had seen someone's letter of visit written on paper in all his years as a guard. The paper was obviously crumpled, and there was a yellow stain on it. It really made people speechless. "You guys wait here. I'll go report to the Alliance Master." The guard didn't take them to heart, and with a change of thought, he gave a perfunctory reply. "Go. By the way, let me tell your president that if she doesn't get the hell out in 3 minutes, we'll have to break in. However, I'm sure she doesn't dare to see anyone with her ugly appearance now, so why don't we just break in now? It'll also save you the trouble." Feng De suddenly said as the guard was about to close the door. His words almost angered the guard to death. "You. How dare you say such things about our president? You must be tired of living." The guard stammered for a long time before he finally cursed. "Little brat. A lot of people have said, I don't want to live anymore, but I've lived longer than any of them, and I believe that I'll definitely live longer than you. Do you believe me?" Feng De said with a smile that was not a smile. He then grabbed the guard by the collar and pulled him in front of him. I believe you. Quickly let go of me." The guard said gloomily. His strength was obviously higher than the other party, but he was pulled up by the other party as if he was a little chick. Ooh, what the hell was this? They were really bullying him. "Since you know, quickly go and report. My patience is limited," Feng De said viciously. After he finished speaking, he threw the guard on the ground. The guard who had regained his freedom was so scared that he scrambled away from the door and ran towards the courtyard. He even forgot to close the door. Looking at the open door, Fodder turned around and asked, "Miss, should we go in directly?" "Go in. The Second Alliance's leader won't come out." Wuxia understood. After she finished speaking, she was the first one to step through the door. Fodder and the rest followed closely behind. This house was not very big, and one could see the end of it with one glance. Other than the main courtyard, there were 2 other courtyards where the guards stayed. However, the guards were obviously not in high spirits and were all listless. They only noticed the arrival of these uninvited guests when Wuxia and the rest came closer. "Who are you? How did you get in?" the guard captain asked with a vigilant look. Recently, because of the Alliance Master's chi deviation, they were all very depressed. At night, they would always be 120,000% alert to watch, and often couldn't even sleep. Therefore, his brothers were in a very bad mental state. Chapter 1304. Taking the initiative to visit. 2. Logically speaking, with their cultivation, it would be fine even if they didn't sleep for a few days and nights. However, after arriving at the divine mainland, they clearly weren't used to the climate here. The food they ate often caused them to have diarrhea, so they were extremely tired. "Didn't the guard at the gate tell you who we are? He was the one who let us in." Wuxia laughed lightly. Looking at the mental state of the guards in front of her, and comparing them to the guard just now, it wasn't hard to realize that being a gatekeeper was actually not a bad job. After all, unless one had extraordinary strength, no one would swagger in from the main entrance when they came to seek revenge. So, guarding the door had become the most relaxing job. Otherwise, that guard wouldn't have had the time to sleep in. "Oh, you're here to see the Alliance Master?" the captain of the guards asked carefully. He seemed to have heard his subordinate mention that there was someone outside who wanted to see the Alliance Master. Of course, who else would come here? "That's right, quickly send your Alliance Master to his death. Don't waste everyone's time," Wuxia said impatiently. Of course, she was also trying to provoke the guards. "Damn it. What did you just say? You dare to send our Alliance Master to his death?" When the captain of the guards heard Wuxia's words, his heart was filled with anger. The woman in front of him was so devastatingly beautiful, but he did not expect her words to be so vicious. He even dared to send their Alliance Master to his death. He really didn't know how high the sky was or how thick the earth was. When their Alliance Master came out, who knew who would be the one dead? He couldn't help but think to himself, "All right. Your Alliance Master doesn't need to come out and die. Well, personally send her on her way. That should be fine, right?" Wuxia said, "Changing the soup but not the medicine." "This is," the leader of the guards wanted to say, "this is more like it," but he quickly realized what was going on. "What are you talking about? Our Alliance Master is a God King. How could a puny mid-level deity like you do anything to her?" "God King? I'm afraid that even a profound god would be able to deal with a divine king who has gone berserk." Wuxia laughed evilly. The more powerful a deity was, the more severe the consequences of chi deviation would be. She was also very clear that the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was severely injured. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been no news from him for so many days. Such big words. I'm not that weak. Suddenly, a cold female voice rang in Wuxia's and the others' ears. Wuxia and the rest looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a graceful lady walking towards them leisurely. Behind her, there were a few extremely handsome young men surrounding her. However, although this woman had an outstanding temperament, her face was covered with a veil, only revealing a pair of beautiful eyes that were sizing up the crowd. Wuxia and the rest did not have to guess to know that this lady was the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance's Second Alliance. Because of her cultivation method, the woman's body always exuded an alluring aura. Every frown and smile carried infinite charm. If it wasn't for the fact that she had yet to fully recover from her chi deviation, she would definitely be an irresistible beauty that could topple a country. However, most women didn't want to see a woman more beautiful than themselves appear in front of them. especially a woman who couldn't see anyone for the time being. Seeing a woman who was several times more beautiful than them was almost the same as seeing the enemy who killed her father. Who are you? What do you want to see me for? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance asked arrogantly as she held her head high. She hated this woman in front of her for no reason. If she had to find someone, the only sin she could have was that she was prettier than her. Please read on /myboxn0vl, lung ruashua. Didn't the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance come all the way from the God world for me? I heard that the Second Alliance's Alliance Master was careless in his cultivation and caused chi deviation, so I'm here to offer my condolences. Lung ruashua laughed. You're Lung ruashua? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance narrowed her eyes and gritted her teeth. That's right, she had come to the Divine Mainland to get rid of Lung ruashua. However, she had not expected Lung ruashua to be so beautiful. If that was the case, this woman deserved to die even more. The current her could not bear to see any other woman who was more beautiful than her. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance is injured. Could it be that his brain is also damaged? Didn't I say that I'm Lung ruashua? Lung ruashua said helplessly. You're really bold. You know my identity and you still dare to speak to me like this. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said, suppressing his anger. How else do you want me to talk to you? I'm not your subordinate, so there's no need for me to be so respectful to you. Lung ruashua laughed. Did the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance think that this was their territory? Humph. In the divine world, only the strong are respected. You are just a puny mid-level deity. Shouldn't you be respectful when you see me? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance sneered. Oh, the strong are respected? However, this is the godly mainland. Are you sure that you can defeat me? Lung ruashua asked curiously. Humph. He's just an ant. Do you think I'd put him in my eyes? The Alliance Masters of the two alliances were extremely proud. They did not even care about Lung ruashua, a mid-stage deity. However, Lung ruashua did not mind. Second Alliance Master. Have you ever heard of the story of an ant biting an elephant to death? Don't look down on any ant, because who knows when you'll fall into the hands of an ant you look down on. Lung ruashua smiled as she reminded him. Humph. Enough with the nonsense. Let me teach you a good lesson, you ant. After the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance finished speaking, he was about to attack Lung ruashua. However, he was stopped by a man beside her. Alliance Master, wait. A man hurriedly said. What's wrong? Don't tell me you have an outside heart and have taken a fancy to this little vixen? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said with jealousy. Alliance Master, what are you thinking? I just wanted to help you teach her a lesson. The man said helplessly, his face full of sincerity. This is more like it. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was very satisfied with the man's words. However, while she was satisfied, Lung ruashua, who had been shot while lying down, was depressed. Who had she offended? She didn't do anything. How did she become a little demon? Sop. She felt so wronged. Chapter 1305. Taking the initiative to visit 3. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance spoke to the man beside him as if there was no one else around. Then the man glared at Lung ruashua and said, You're not worthy of our Alliance Master's attack. Your opponent is me. You're not worthy of my Schweer's attack. Your opponent is me. The demon laughed. Who are you? The man's eyes widened as he looked at the handsome man in front of him, and asked with jealousy, Why do you care who I am? The demon said in an unpleasant tone, Humph. He didn't like the way this man was looking at his Schwer. With this guy's little thoughts, he wanted Schwer to fight with him? No way. He would clean up first. What big words. I'll teach you a lesson now. After the man finished speaking, he threw the divine power he had gathered at the demon. Seeing this, the demon unhurriedly released a black ball of divine power from his hand and threw it out. The black ball of divine power circled around the demon twice as if it was acting coquettishly, then happily pounced toward the divine power that the other party had released, and began to fight with it. Hey, who do you think will win? The great elder asked curiously as he looked at the two balls of divine power. The divine power released by the two of them was one large and one small. The large one was like a blue ball, while the small one, which was the demoness, was only the size of a baby's fist. When the great elder saw the huge difference between the two balls of divine power, his jaw almost dropped. How is he going to fight? Of course it's my future son-in-law who will win. Who does that kid think he is? The master of the Ning family frowned as he looked at the divine powers that were entangled with each other. He was very supportive of himself. In fact, he was not sure if the monster would win because he had rarely seen the monster in action. Therefore, other than knowing that the monster had the strength of a high-level deity, he knew nothing about the monster's strength. Yes, that's right. That freak will definitely win. Hearing Master Ning's words, the first elder also cooperated. However, their soft discussion was very harsh to the man's ears. Humph! Where did you old things come from? How dare you make such irresponsible remarks? The man roared angrily. He was clearly stronger than this demonic man, so why didn't anyone say he would win? He was so angry. Can't we talk about it? You didn't want us to say it, but we're going to say it. You're going to lose. The master of the Ning family said stubbornly, Humph. He really was a stinky brat who didn't know how to respect the old and cherish the young. He even dared to scold him. He really didn't want to live anymore. Yes. You don't even know him. It'd be strange if you didn't lose. The first elder said with an evil smile. Old man, they're also scolding you. You can actually still laugh. It seems that the two of us haven't been in the divine realm for a long time. Even a few lowly lackeys dare to make a big fuss in front of us. The master of the Ning family said unhappily. Please read on /myboxn0vel.com if he likes to scold, then scold. I've been scolded by a dog. Do you think I can lower myself to scold a dog? The first elder nonchalantly said. You're right, a human shouldn't stoop to the level of a dog. The master of the Ning family nodded. Just who are you people? At this time, the leader of the Second Alliance, who had heard their conversation, looked at the master of the Ning family and the first elder with vigilance. To be honest, she was familiar with these two people, but she couldn't remember where she had seen them before. However, after listening to their conversation, she began to doubt their identity. Since Lung Ruoxua dared to look for her so brazenly, she must have some backing. Hence, she had no choice but to be on high alert in case she lost everything. In reality, she realized it a little too late. Ever since she gave the order to deal with Lung Ruoxua and the others, she had already lost. Furthermore, she had lost everything. They are my godfather. Lung Ruoxua laughed. Yes, Mshuair's god-grandfather. The great elder added. Damn old man, do you have to be older than me? The master of the Ning family said through gritted teeth. Ehe. It's my fault for getting to know Shui first. The great elder had an evil smile on his face, and was extremely pleased in his heart. Godfather, great elder, you can argue, but can you not scold the dog? The dog is innocent. How can he be compared to the dog? At this moment, Lung Ruoxua said with a hint of dissatisfaction. In her previous life, her favorite animal was a dog. So, when she saw her godfather and great elder comparing that man to a dog, she naturally wanted to vent her grievances for the dog. Good. He's even worse than a dog, that should be enough. The master of the Ning family and the great elder corrected him in unison. Yes, he's worse than a pig or a dog. Lung Ruoxua nodded in satisfaction. Damn it, who are they? When the alliance master of the Second Alliance saw how Lung Ruoxua and the other two were ignoring her, he could not help but shout. I've said it before. They are my godfather. Don't you understand? Lung Ruoxua was speechless. Her face was filled with sympathy. I know they're your godfather. I'm asking about their identities. The alliance master of the Second Alliance said, suppressing his anger. They are my godfather. Lung Ruoxua played dumb. That's right. The master of the Ning family and the great elder nodded in agreement. The Second Alliance's leader almost exploded in anger when she saw them echoing each other. Then she couldn't help but shout at the man who was competing with the evildoer. Why haven't you dealt with him yet? Why are you still dawdling? When the man heard the Second Alliance's leader's words, he cursed in his heart. Fuck, did he think he didn't want to take down this man? However, even though the Shen power that he released was small, it was very cunning and agile. His Shen power was rapidly being lost. At this time he still did not know that his Shen power had been swallowed by the Black Shen power ball. Otherwise he would have been depressed to death. Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, I see that you're quite free. Why don't we exchange a few moves? Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. You're asking for it. The moment the Alliance Master finished speaking, he immediately made his move. In an instant, a light blue divine power pounced towards Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue looked at the light blue divine power that was just short distance away and chuckled as she released her fire attribute divine power. The moment the dazzling flame appeared, it instantly dried up the surrounding air. Fengda and the rest quickly jumped away from their mist side to avoid being affected by the scorching flames. They had a deep understanding of how powerful the young mist flames were. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.